Isn't it good for the five of us to be together? Chapter 76 Nanyang chapter completed. Everyone. Someone scorned, spy, what shame do you have to stand here? The guards and others around me didn't dare to do anything to me. The crime hadn't been decided yet, so they could only watch. Someone had already gone to report the matter. I looked at the number 29 on the system panel, slightly curled my lips. It's fast, it's fast. Don't talk nonsense to her. Tell me, did you leak the drawing? I said, it's me. Traitor, Nanyang and Bayan are incompatible, why did you do this? I said calmly, the regent of Bayan has given me too much, and it's hard for me not to obey. What followed was an overwhelming amount of scolding me for being such a villain. I stood in front of everyone, and no one dared to do anything to me. The guards next to me stared at me, but I just watched this scene quietly, and took a look at the system panel. It was still 29. The Holy One has arrived. I was shocked, why is Ling Hongyuan so fast? I remember that Dali Temple is far away from the Imperial Palace. When everyone heard that the Holy Emperor was coming in person, they hurriedly made way. The Holy One is here. This traitor must be dealt with properly. I looked at Ling Hongyuan who was coming and could see his expression clearly, but his steps were messy and I didn't know why. When I got closer, I noticed that his face was full of fatigue and worry, but not as angry as I imagined. Ignoring everyone's words, he only said to me, go back with me. I avoided him to hold my hand and took a few steps back. Your Majesty, things have not turned around. UAG hereby apologizes. Ling Hongyuan ignored me and repeated, go back with me. Your Majesty, UG is here to apologize. Ling Hongyuan gritted his teeth. I said, go back. I did not speak. The people below realized something was wrong and were all whispering. I am afraid that the rumors between me and Ling Hongyuan were deeply rooted in the hearts of the people, which made the scene even more imaginative. Ling Hongyuan lost his patience. Chen Yuji, come back to the palace with me and don't make any more trouble. I am more stubborn than him. UAG is a guilty person, please forgive me. I called up the panel, and it was still 29. There was no time to escape. Ling Hongyuan seemed to be angry and laughed. If I knew you would do this, I should have asked Chin Che to take you away. Speaking of Chin Che, I don't know why he came so slowly. Could it be that he was blocked by Ling Hongyuan's people? Seeing that I didn't speak, Ling Hongyuan said, okay, if you don't reply, then I will interrogate you here. It is obvious that the letter between you and Bayan is fake. Why did you forge it and give it to Yu Shaoqing? The evidence has not been found. Why are you so eager to plead guilty? Question mark. Is it to hide the real traitor? I am silent. Ling Hongyuan, let's not talk about this. Let's talk about your confession. What benefits did Qi Wanshan give you? Make you work for him? Gold, silver and jewelry, glory and wealth. I broke out in a cold sweat, fearing that he would describe me more and more unfairly. Ling Hongyuan slowly came closer to me and said in a voice that could only be heard by me and him, if you plead guilty, it will bring the discord between Bayan and Nanyang to the surface. Then the two countries will have a war. Do you really want to see that scene? Ling Hongyuan was very smart and caught my weakness. However, I was smarter than him and had already thought of this. I smiled and said, Your Majesty, no. The two countries will never go to war. Ling Hongyuan obviously didn't expect me to be so sure and was stunned. There was a sudden commotion outside Dali Temple. I realized that it was Chin Che who was coming. Looking at the beating numbers, I realized that the time had come. When Ling Hongyuan wasn't paying attention, I walked towards the door and said in a loud enough voice, didn't Your Majesty ask me why I worked for the regent of Bayan? I have been pleasing myself and my heart has been pleasing to him for a long time, so I should be willing to do so. As soon as I finished speaking, a cold sword pierced my body, the familiar cold light, the familiar stinging feeling. Even though I was mentally prepared, it still didn't work, it was too painful. Please yourself. In the blur, I saw Ling Hongyuan running toward me anxiously and holding me up. Behind him was the familiar voice, RG. I felt like I was slowly passing away. I hated Chin Che, who can seal my throat with a sword every time. The Imperial Physician, Chin Che, are you crazy? Someone hugged me suddenly. How can I say that I like other people? I obviously only like me. Gee, I'm sorry, Gee, don't sleep. The doctor will be here soon, so don't sleep. I wanted to say something to Chin Che, saying I'm sorry, but I still missed the appointment, but I spit out a mouthful of blood. I endured the pain and watched the number on the panel finally reach 30, and closed my eyes with peace of mind. Drop. The host has completed the main mission of Nanyang and is preparing to leave the world. Ling Hongyuan shouted, Chen Yuji, this is what you want, isn't it? I don't allow you to die. I don't allow you to die now. I sighed inwardly, remembering that the little palace maid also left him in the middle of winter, and I didn't know if he would have a shadow over winter in the future. It hurts so much. Why doesn't the dog system have a pain shielding function? After that, I had no other consciousness and felt like I was in a vast and endless place. Drop. When Ning An's virtual side story scene has been constructed. Close hollow corner bracket. Drop. Chin Che's main storyline has been unlocked. Close hollow corner bracket. Drop. The main storyline of Ling Hongyuan has been unlocked. Close hollow corner bracket. All storyline hosts can check it out at any time. Close hollow corner bracket. Congratulations to the host for achieving the Nanyang main story completion achievement medal. Close hollow corner bracket. All prizes have been distributed. The host please pay attention to check. Close hollow corner bracket. Transmitting all information. When he opened his eyes again, he saw that the familiar little world was still the same as before. He didn't have the sword on his body, but there was still a slight pain. Looking for a new identity for the host. Do you want to watch the incident in Nanyang in real time? Close hollow corner bracket. I clicked, no. I still have feelings for people in Nanyang. The only time I became the target of public criticism was because of myself. I still have many good memories. I can't bear to see what will happen. Anyway, after I went to Bayan, I will still hear from them. Speaking of Bayan, I don't know if Jiwanshan will keep his word and don't fight if it's unnecessary, not to mention that he also got what he wanted. This guy is a scheming man, and I don't know how many brain cells it will take to defeat him. I asked, has the balance of the small world been restored? Restored. The host doesn't have to worry, the system has a perfect set of data analysis software. Close hollow corner bracket. That's good, don't let me go through this and not get anything done. The system suddenly sent a sound of electricity in my mind, and I asked what was wrong. Oh, the system detected a blackening value. Hi. You can take it easy yourself. I need to take a rest. I still feel a bit of pain near my heart. I waited for Chin Che. He was on the verge of going crazy. He would definitely not be able to bear it when he heard those words. As expected, that sword was really solid. If you can, please don't let me experience it a third time, thank you.
You can create similar videos in just 1 minute. Simply open the Filmora app. Select image to video. Input your prompt.
Five of us to be together. Chapter 77 Palace Change. Drop. Looking for a suitable person for the host. Progress. 1%. So slow. I brought up the system panel and took this time to check all the memory fragments. I was still very curious about the past events between Chin Che and Ling Hongyuan, especially about Chin Yu's death. The main story of the main target has overlapped with the side story. Do you want to check it, host? Close hollow corner bracket. I clicked, yes. The picture flipped over and my eyes had long since regained their clarity. What came into view was the general's palace decorated with lanterns and festoons for a great celebration. I was stunned for a while before I remembered that the memory fragments mentioned Chin Yu's engagement with the eldest prince. Is that today? I found that my body could move, so I walked into the general's mansion. At this time, all the servants in the house were smiling happily, thinking that the wedding of the first prince in Nanyang would definitely be grand. I walked to the door of a very familiar wing, and I was in a daze for a moment, because a little further from the side was the wing where I used to live in the general's mansion. I have always been aware of Chin Che's obsession with Chin Yu. This may be the first time that I feel it so truly, which makes me feel a little sad. There are several people in Chin Yu's wing who are dressing her up. Today, Chin Yu is bright and charming, and is undoubtedly beautiful. I took a closer look and saw that standing next to Chin Yu was still an old acquaintance, Princess Xiangyu. Yu looks really good today. Shen Ranju's tone was a little disappointed for some reason. Chin Yu took her hand and said, Ajumo, you have to worry about me. The eldest prince is a man of talent. Everyone praises him as the next generation of wise kings. If I marry him, he will definitely treat me well. The sadness on Shen Ranju's face still didn't go away. He just said, why is Master Chin missing today? The maid who was cleaning Chin Yu's hands next to her said, Miss Shen, today is the wedding day of the young lady. My husband is always waiting in the living room. The eldest young master should be there, waiting for the young lady to finish dressing up. At this time, Shen Ranju had not yet been named the princess. Chin Yu smiled and said, why do you suddenly mention Brother Archer? Shen Ranju frowned, I'm just worried. Chin Yu seemed to have thought of something and said, Brother Archer can't do it. I have already explained to him that he is just my brother. Shen Ranju took the comb from the maid beside him and said, I hope so. Chin Yu's mother died young, so it fell on Shen Ranju to comb her hair and give a congratulatory message. Shen Ranju, you are going to marry as a woman. I only wish that you and the eldest prince will always be united and be together for hundreds of years. You will have a stable and worry-free life. I looked at the bright light outside, but for some reason, it felt like a storm was coming. An hour later, the nuns came to tell her that the auspicious time had come. Chin Yu put on a red hijab. Shen Ranju helped her out of the wing and walked to the front hall. General Chin and Chin Che were both there. Chin Che's face was emotionless and terrifyingly calm. General Chin's eyes were slightly red. He only had this beloved daughter, and he was probably very reluctant to part with her. Shen Ranju handed Chin Yu to Chin Che. As his elder brother, Chin Che had to carry Chin Yu out of the general's mansion and take her to the royal sedan. Looking at this scene, those who knew it was Chin Yu marrying the eldest prince, but those who didn't know thought Chin Yu was married to Chin Che. The eldest prince outside has been waiting for a long time and looks very happy. Chin Che handed Chin Yu into his hands and got into the gorgeous sedan chair. Chin Che's expression was still calm. I was puzzled. Did Chin Che really let go, or the calm before the storm? The eldest prince mounted his horse, the suona sounded, and the wedding procession moved forward. Chin Che stood there and watched from a distance, not knowing what he was thinking. General Chin sent someone to call him into the study, and I followed him in. General Chin had a serious look on his face and said, You are marrying the eldest prince, please put away those little thoughts. Chin Che bowed respectfully, I know. General Chin, tonight, you will go with me to the city gate to summon an army to protect his majesty. Chin Che's eyes moved slightly, hiding a variety of emotions, and only answered, yes. The eldest prince does not yet have a residence outside the palace, and will spend his wedding day in the palace. There was a grand banquet in the palace, happy words everywhere, and all the loyal officials of the court were here. It seems that the emperor also attaches great importance to his eldest son. The etiquette in the palace is the ceremony of the mother of the country, and all the courtiers are well aware of this. The emperor smiled and sat at the head of the banquet. Looking at him, his smile condensed. Where is the second prince? The chamberlain beside him said, Back to your majesty, the second prince is delayed because of something. He will come later. The emperor's face was filled with anger. What about the third prince? Is there something wrong with him too? The chamberlain hurriedly said, Back to your majesty, as for the third prince. Your highness's old illness has relapsed, and I'm afraid he won't be able to attend the banquet. After hearing this, the emperor put down the wine glass heavily. The discerning chamberlain had already knelt down. No one at the table dared to breathe, for fear that the anger of the high-ranking person would be revealed on themselves. The chamberlain said in fear, "Your Majesty, please calm down." Emperor, old disease, when will it not relapse? But now, on his eldest brother's wedding day, even one of his brothers will be here. What a shame. Cough, cough, cough. Chamberlain, oh, Your Majesty, take care of your dragon body. Seeing this, the eldest prince hurriedly stepped forward. Father, please calm down. The second and third brothers have already asked someone to send congratulatory gifts. Father, the dragon body is important, so don't get angry. The emperor covered his mouth and coughed for a while, then simply said, "You are the only sensible person among the three brothers. That's all, go ahead, don't disturb the fun of you and your daughter-in-law." The eldest prince, "Thank you, father." Seeing this, there was still peace and harmony underneath. The emperor covered his mouth and kept coughing. He didn't stay for long before being helped back to his bedroom by his chamberlain. The banquet was coming to an end, but the two princes were still missing. The eldest prince acted calmly. When courtiers mentioned this matter, they just smiled and said nothing. I don't know if he is really gentle or if he is quite sophisticated. Suddenly, there was chaos in the palace. A palace maid reported that there was a fire in the west of the palace. The fire was getting bigger and bigger, so people rushed to put out the fire. Everyone looked panicked, the banquet was in chaos, and the eldest prince led a group of imperial guards to put out the fire. I also followed, presumably this fire must not be simple. The eldest prince was surprised to see that the fire was not raging. The maid below came to tell him that the fire had spread to several palaces, but the fire was extinguished without even a stick of incense. The imperial guards below also looked puzzled, but they thought that the eunuch and maid might have misrepresented the news. When they were about to return the same way, an uninvited guest blocked their way. Eldest brother, second brother is here to wish you a happy wedding. The visitor was sitting on the horse, grinning, and looked so rebellious that he begged for a beating. The eldest prince was still unfazed by favors and humiliations, and only said, "Is the second brother leading troops into the palace?" Behind the second prince were a group of soldiers, all wearing helmets and armor. Second prince, eldest brother already knows, why bother asking again? The eldest prince, are you trying to force the palace to rebel? The second prince looked up to the sky and laughed, "Brother, don't speak so harshly. I am not rebelling." This prince led the troops into the palace to protect the lord. He is a meritorious minister. The eldest prince narrowed his eyes slightly, enter the palace to protect the lord. Second prince, this is no longer nonsense, big brother. Come here, give me the prince's order. The eldest prince wants to force the palace to rebel. I, the prince, will rescue them and capture the rebels. As soon as these words were spoken, the soldiers behind him swarmed in, and the guards around the eldest prince quickly formed a formation to block the soldiers' attack. Although the imperial guards were good at fighting, their numbers were small and they could not hold on after a while. The eldest prince took the sword and killed the enemy together. But in the end, he was no match for the many soldiers. He received a sword blow to his abdomen and fell down. The second prince walked up to him and smiled wildly. "Brother, do you know how long I have been waiting for this day?" The eldest prince had blood in his mouth, and his words were unclear. Why? Second prince, why? I am obviously much better than my eldest brother, whether it is literary skills or martial arts, but my father values my eldest brother more. Why? The position of crown prince should be given to someone who is capable. People, not a soft-hearted person like you, big brother. The eldest prince couldn't hold it any longer, and the second prince closed his eyes for him. Who asked you to marry the second lady of the Qin family? Originally, I didn't want my eldest brother's life, but the half of the tiger talisman in the general's mansion is particularly important, and I have to hold it in my hand. In hand. I sighed in my heart and wanted to connect this second prince with the second prince in the prison. I felt that they were completely different types of people. Ling Hongyuan could have lied to me. If a person like the second prince were defeated at the hands of others, he would choose to kill himself with a sword, instead of being in prison, where life would be worse than death. The second prince here killed the eldest prince and turned right and wrong. The emperor noticed something and spit out a mouthful of blood on the dragon bed. The chamberlain and the imperial doctor beside the bed were anxious, but they were helpless. It must have been that the emperor's illness had long been cured, and now he was extremely angry. The emperor tremblingly took out half of the tiger talisman from under the pillow and said, "Quick! Take this, and give it to General Qin. Let him take the complete military talisman and use the soldiers in the city to escort him." The chamberlain quickly took the tiger charm and rushed to find someone. The emperor lay on the bed and gasped for air. The imperial doctor quickly gave him acupuncture to help him calm down slowly. General Qin was not far outside the palace gate. The chamberlain found him and informed him of the situation in the palace. The emperor would not be able to hold on for long. General Qin was about to take over the tiger talisman and led his troops to rescue him, when suddenly a sword pierced the confidant of the chamberlain, killing him on the spot. It's Qin Che. He seemed to be red-eyed with murder, and his body was covered in blood, like a wolf moving forward in the blood moon, full of murderous intent. General Qin roared, "Qin Che, what are you doing?" Qin Che wanted to take the military talisman, but General Qin reacted very quickly. He used his sword to fight off him and took the half of the military talisman. "General Qin, are you planning to rebel?" Qin Che was non-committal. "General Qin, how did you promise me this morning? Have you forgotten what I taught you all these years?" Qin Che suppressed his emotions and said, "Father, I don't want to fight with you." General Qin, treason, since you want to rebel, then accept the move. Qin Che did not take action, but blocked General Qin's attack with his sword. He was only focused on the tiger talisman and had no intention of fighting with him. The two of them were in a stalemate, and the dagger suddenly appeared in front of General Qin's neck. "General Qin, please stop, I don't want to hurt the veteran." The person who came was Ling Hongyuan, dressed in dark black robes, smiling lightly, and looking like he was in a position of great power. General Qin reacted, You, okay, I'm going to capture all of these traitors today. Ling Hongyuan smiled and said, General, don't struggle anymore. Have you ever wondered why there is so much movement here but no deputy general or soldier came? General Qin opened his eyes wide, as if he couldn't believe it, but also didn't want to believe that a group of soldiers had been instigated to rebel like this. I'm afraid that his half of the tiger talisman is also in Ling Hongyuan's hands. General Qin let go of his hand and the tiger talisman fell to the ground. Seeing that he had no intention of resisting, Ling Hongyuan let him go. General, as long as he continues to serve the country, I, the prince, will not treat the general badly. General Qin did not speak, he just laughed and shouted, The sky has no eyes, how can I let this general pick up such a scourge? Qin Che's eyes were red over there. He was very excited when he heard this, but he restrained himself and did not dare to make any move. Seeing this, General Qin suddenly rushed forward, took his sword, and swiped it on his neck, killing himself. Father! There was blood on the ground, and the tiger symbol was beside him, and he didn't know if he was mourning for someone. Ling Hongyuan successfully obtained the complete tiger talisman, and the soldiers in the city completely obeyed his orders and followed him into the palace to escort him. That night, I saw the young man riding on a horse, his body covered in blood. The soldiers of the second prince were fighting with the soldiers of Ling Hongyuan. Qin Che was already red-eyed. He was so mad that it was difficult to control his emotions. His foster father died under his sword. It was even harder for him to calm down. He was really killing one by one. Allow. I couldn't bear to look directly at this scene. That's what's bad about the virtual scene. It was too real, so real that it felt like it was happening in front of my eyes. Ling Hongyuan rescued him in time, and the emperor was not injured. Qin Che cares about Qin Yu, but there is still the second prince standing in his way. Second prince, you ask me where Qin Yu is. Ha 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 ha. Do you think she will still forgive you after she knows the truth? Qin Che shouted, Shut up. I didn't. The second prince over there was laughing wildly, but Qin Che still didn't dare to move because he still had the lives of the courtiers in his hands. That's right, seeing that there was no hope of rebellion, he took a bunch of courtiers hostage. But this time, they were all lying in a mess in the palace, unconscious. During this period, I saw Shen Ranju. Second prince, on the outside, you compliment your adoptive father, but secretly you are holding hands with me and your third brother. Qin Che, I really belong to you. You love Qin Yu so deeply, why can't you let go of your eldest brother? What, but even so, do you think Qin Yu will compromise and commit to you? Ha 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 ha. Qin Che was already close to the peak of his madness, and the corner of his mouth was bitten with blood, but he still smiled and said, If Yu doesn't want to be with me, then I will trap her, and she can always be with me. Second prince, so you admit that you also killed my eldest brother. Don't you really hate my eldest brother? On the edge of the explosion, Qin Che lost the ability to think and just shouted, Yes. I just want him to die. Ling Hongyuan, who came from the side, did not stop his mouth. The second prince smiled even more wantonly, Bring it up. Isn't it good for the five of us to be together? Chapter 78 Four people compliment each other. A soldier on the side came out with someone, Qin Yu, who was wearing a luxurious wedding dress. Qin Che looked at her in shock, and the chill in his body seemed to be reduced a lot because of his hesitation. When he got closer, he could see clearly that Qin Yu's expression was ashen, as if he couldn't believe it all. Qin Che wanted to rush forward, but the second prince put a dagger on Qin Yu's neck and said slowly, Young Master Qin, don't be anxious. Be careful that the sword has no eyes. It will not be good to hurt the second Miss Qin. Qin Che, what did you say to her? Second prince, what did you say? It's just that her father and husband died at the hands of her brother. She didn't believe it at first, but just now she heard you admit it yourself. When Qin Yu heard this, she burst into tears. Her delicate makeup had already been ruined after a chaos. She couldn't believe all this, nor could she believe that her beloved brother would do such a thing. She was about to become a woman, about to marry the man of her heart, but something like this happened, leaving her with no support and no home. She looked at Qin Che without saying a word, without any hatred, but tears kept falling. Qin Che just said, Let her go, what do you want? The second prince smiled, I know that I have no way out, so naturally I can't make it easy for you. You can only choose between Miss Qin and the courtiers. Do you want Miss Qin to live alone, or let her live alone? Risk your life for someone else. Choose. Qin Che and Qin Yu looked at each other. Qin Yu shook his head and said, Brother Ache can't help himself. Yu doesn't blame you. Qin Yu accepted all this calmly and just waited for the final trial. The second prince, since Master Qin has made his choice, then he should take the life of second Miss Qin with his own hands. Speaking of this, the second prince looked excited, as if he was about to see something big. Qin Che, believe it or not, I will kill you now. The second prince laughed, then none of us will survive. His soldiers pointed their swords at the courtiers and would be killed on the spot with just one order. Qin Che clenched his fist and approached Qin Yu step by step. The cold sword was stained with the blood of many people. Qin Yu pressed the dagger on his neck tightly, trying to kill himself first, but the second prince dodged it. At this moment, Qin Yu wanted to escape from the shackles of the second prince and rushed to Qin Che. Qin Che pointed his sword at the second prince and directly took his life. The second prince reacted quickly and pulled Qin Yu in front of him. But this time, Qin Che could no longer take back his sword and plunged it straight into Qin Yu's heart. Well, the red wedding dress was suddenly stained with blood. Qin Che looked at the scene in disbelief, and the air seemed to be still for a moment. Long. Qin Yu fell weakly, and Qin Che caught her. Some people are laughing, some are crying. Ling Hongyuan took control of the second prince and also rescued a number of courtiers. The bloody thing is that the scene of Qin Che stabbing Qin Yu happened to be seen by Shen Ranju, who woke up. Seeing that his best friend died of his former brother, it can no longer be described as a shock. You, wake up. The Imperial Physician. The Imperial Physician. That sword was really solid. Qin Yu didn't leave anything behind, but just left with a smile, which seemed like a relief to her. Later, in order to prevent Qin Che from being stupid, Ling Hongyuan directly knocked him out and tied him up to prevent him from waking up and seeking death, and then went to solve his own problems. The second prince was not dealt with immediately, but was given medicine and thrown into prison. When the emperor saw that his youngest son had saved him, he didn't know how he felt. Knowing that his eldest son was dead and his second son was disabled, he vomited out a mouthful of blood. The emperor pointed at Ling Hongyuan and said, It's you. Ling Hongyuan smiled. Father, your most shameless youngest son is about to ascend the throne. I wonder how father feels. The emperor was speechless and just stared at him fiercely. Ling Hongyuan, father, I will send you on your last journey to end this absurd and wasteful life. On that day, the death knell rang and the emperor passed away. Ling Hongyuan temporarily took charge of state affairs and settled down inside and outside. As expected, Qin Che woke up and wanted to seek death, but was stopped by Ling Hongyuan. Then the real enemy is still in prison. Why are you arguing with me here? Nanyang is not very stable now. Just after your adoptive father died, the border thieves started fighting. Have you forgotten your vow to become famous all over the world? Then Qin Yu was still thinking about you before she died. She must know what you are like people. Do you really want to give up all this? You haven't avenged your youth. Have you really forgotten the enemy who killed your parents? It must be said that Ling Hongyuan is a first-class brainwashing master. Qin Che slowly calmed down under his words, as if he was forced to accept this situation. From then on, Qin Che had been assisting Ling Hongyuan. When he was firmly on the throne, he requested an order to go to the border to kill the enemy. There was nowhere to release the pain he felt in the capital. Here, he would kill as many people as he could who violated the law. Therefore, Qin Che has the reputation of killing people without blinking an eye, and his small team will basically take a detour when they see him, so as not to offend the Lord of Hell. He met Wen Ning'an when he was at war with a certain country. Before that, her sister had already been used by her country as a bargaining chip to blackmail her. But she approached Qin Che, hoping that he could help her rescue her sister. Qin Che refused at first, but agreed after Wen Ning'an's discussion. But when they rushed to save Wen Yaran, she had already lost her breath and had been bled to death. It seems that those people didn't want her to survive at all. Wen Ning'an was depressed for a long time, but when Ling Hongyuan found out about Wen Ning'an, he quickly asked Qin Che to bring him back. He was in urgent need of a person with righteousness. Wen Ning'an resisted, so Qin Che kidnapped her back, and after being brainwashed by Ling Hongyuan, Wen Ning'an stayed and became a hard-working prime minister of Nanyang. Another thing that impressed Wen Ning'an was that Ling Hongyuan stopped everyone's speech and allowed women to become officials, which was what Wen Ning'an had always wanted before. After the palace change, the general's mansion changed drastically, and he never mentioned the past events, but some servants still couldn't escape Qin Che's clutches. But this time, Shen Ranju would stand up and take Qin Yu's token to stop Qin Che from committing atrocities again and again. If you want to make your sins worse again, go ahead and kill Qin Che, and kill me too, otherwise I won't be able to go see you. Ling Hongyuan also gave Shen Ranju a new title and a new status, Princess Xiangyu, as if to comfort, but also as if to challenge someone. So Qin Che continued to stay at the border out of sight and out of mind, rarely returning to the capital. The relationship between these four people complements each other so well that I feel that if one person is missing, Nanyang will be at least a little chaotic. Drop. Nanyang mainline fragments have been read. Close hollow corner bracket. Me. I opened my eyes again and returned to that familiar space. Isn't it good for the five of us to be together? Chapter 79 Chen Anping. Thinking that Qin Che's madness has not yet been cured, I always feel panic for no reason. I hope my affairs will not affect him too much. Well, I have no idea. Anyway, I will return to the small world, and I will have to meet them sooner or later. I will just make it clear to them then. Before I escaped, I also left a letter to each of Qin Che and Ling Hongyuan. They must have seen it, and they don't know how they felt. I called the system. There was no response, only a faint sound of electricity. Broken. There is a fault, the system is detecting. Hi, do you want to be so unreliable? Drop. The host adapted character has been detected. Please confirm the release of the host. Me, is this disconnection really reliable? Please host confirm the release. After thinking for a while, I clicked confirm. The world was spinning before my eyes, and the sound of electricity sizzled in my ears. Transmitting host information. Transmission successful. Nanyang line information has been archived for the host. Name, Chen Anping. Age, 20. Gender, female. Identity, Qin Che's distant cousin, Nanyang strategist. Attributes, physical value, 46 up pointing arrow. Popularity, 30. Image value, 45 up pointing arrow. Main line completion, 5%. Achievement medal for achievement, unfavorable start, scamming everywhere, little hearing, constant self-improvement, and completed the main story of Nanyang. Why did you change your name? Before I could react, I was suddenly kicked. Hi, who kicked your father? My physical fitness level was pretty good, so I stood up abruptly and glared at the person who kicked me. Maybe it's because my eyes have been hazy before, and my body hasn't adapted well yet. The sky is bright in front of me, which is very dazzling. My soul was unstable, and I shook my body, trying not to fall down. Come on, hurry up, don't get hurt. Me. Forget it, I won't argue with you. If I hadn't calmed down enough, I would have kicked you back even if you didn't say anything. I looked around. It was like a small market. A cold wind blew in the winter. I shivered and found that the clothes on my body were in tatters. There was also a broken bowl in front of me. Me. System. What identity did you give me? Where is this? Quote. The host is dressed as a beggar. The system is currently under maintenance and is interfered by the magnetic field here. This place is Nanyang Yangon Town. Dressed as a beggar. Doesn't that mean what I think? Suddenly an empty mirror appeared in front of me, and I could see the person in it. He had a beautiful appearance. Although there was some mud on his face, he was no longer familiar. Yes, this body is very similar to my own. If you look closely, it looks like it was carved from the same mold. No wonder she was chosen. I'm afraid she couldn't be more suitable. The original body froze to death in this winter. After I put it on, I brought my own information value with me, and my skin gradually turned red. By the way, if you didn't go to Bayan, why did you stay in Nanyang? Currently the system is limited. The host can only be teleported here. It's also good. Since he is a beggar, there is no need to make up anything about his life experience. Me. Where are you going next? Quote. The system is undergoing maintenance. Please handle it yourself. Hi. Hello. After a burst of electricity, my mind went silent for a moment. Seeing the heavy snow falling in front of me, I shivered with cold. The dog system will not leave you any clothes when you leave, and I will give you a bad review when you get back. While he was complaining, a robe suddenly fell on his back, and it was still brand new. I was a little surprised and had an idea in my mind. Then he said, I want a piece of sesame cake. Another steaming hot cake appeared in his hand. Could it be that the system has turned on the wishing mode for me? I quickly made a wish for a big house where I could deal with it for one night. Found no movement at all. Only the familiar backpack button appeared in front of me. It turns out that I can only take the items in my backpack. The things inside are the big gift package prizes I got from previous tasks, including more food, clothing, and some medicine. I asked why it couldn't be used before. Why is it waiting for me? I chewed on the sesame seed cakes in my hand, which was pretty good, at least it wasn't like the last time. This is the town, it looks familiar. I have complete control over this body, and I don't feel dizzy or dizzy. Since the system didn't tell me what I needed to do, I had to find a place to settle down on my own. It's just that few people go out in this winter. There are only beggars and rare homeless people on the roadside, hugging each other to keep warm. For me, they took one look and looked away. Nothing special, just an ordinary robe and a simple sesame seed cake. They were probably thinking of the kind-hearted person I asked for it from. After all, I am no different from a beggar in my slovenly state. I ate half of the biscuits and felt a little full. Suddenly I felt that I was a little pretentious. I was afraid that I had eaten too much fish and meat before, so even eating this kind of cake tasted like nothing. Halfway through, I turned my attention to a little girl on the side of the road. She stayed with her mother, her eyes dull, as if she was cold and hungry, and felt like she was about to lose her life. I walked over and handed the half of the cake to the little girl. Her mother cried as she accepted it and put it into her mouth bit by bit. I took off my robe and put it on both of them. The girl's mother, girl, this is impossible. I said, take it, I am very sharp and I will definitely survive this winter. The girl was too cold, so the woman quickly put it on the girl after taking her robe away. I said, you usually can only make a living by begging. The woman said with tears in her eyes, yes, the farmland at home was occupied, and my husband went to the yamen to seek justice but was beaten to death with sticks. We, mother and daughter, are helpless, there is nowhere to redress our grievances. I was shocked. The Holy Father has already ordered that all farmland should be returned to farmers. How could something like this happen? The woman said, the sky is high and the emperor is far away. How could the Holy One care about our life and death? I am silent. Before, I thought that the new law was foolproof and would definitely allow farmers in Nanyang to have land to farm, live in, and have food to eat, but they didn't want the reality to be cruel and ruthless. I don't know if Ling Hongyuan realized it. The woman continued, if it weren't for a Taoist priest who looked like an immortal at the end of the street, who set up a stall to provide porridge every day, I'm afraid we wouldn't have survived long. I asked doubtfully, Taoist? Porridge. How could a Taoist priest be so rich? The woman said, yes, but the Taoist priest only helps women, old and young, and is unable to bear more. What's more, the Taoist priest himself is blind, and I'm afraid he is also a miserable man. Blind man, so familiar. I remember that this small world is not fantasy. Why is there a Taoist priest? I asked, the one who exorcises ghosts. The woman said, a fortune teller. Me, the blind man reads the divination. Is there a mistake? The woman said, girl, you can't call me that. The Taoist priest is a kind person and I don't dare to make unreasonable comments. Isn't it good for the five of us to be together? Chapter 80 Jiang Yuchen. This Taoist priest aroused my interest, and I was ready to take a look. The woman said, girl, I'd better give this robe back to you. I declined politely, I won't get back the things I gave you. Just keep them, the child needs them. I turned around and left. At that moment I felt so handsome. I looked at the time on the system panel and found that it had actually been almost half a month since I escaped. News about the capital must have spread, but I didn't want to ask for fear of hearing some bad news. Yes, I'm a coward. When I got to the end of the street, I didn't see anyone, but I did see a stall, which was built with some long wooden sticks and cloth. It felt a little shaky. There was only a small long table in the stall. Someone passed by and kindly reminded me, today, the time for Taoist priests to prepare porridge has passed. Girls, please come early tomorrow. I said thank you and thought about coming back tomorrow to have a look, but the small wooden door of the house opened. I turned around and looked, and saw a tall and elegant man, wearing only a sky blue robe, standing at the door, but his eyes were covered with a thin ribbon, making the whole person look cold, indifferent and peaceful. No wonder the woman said he was a Taoist priest like an immortal. His robes fluttered in the wind, as if he couldn't feel the cold. He was like a person who was banished to an immortal, and he had a unique aura. The sound of electricity in my head became louder. Seeing this, I am sure. This is definitely the fourth target I want to conquer. The immortal spoke, you don't have to wait until tomorrow. The porridge is still hot inside. Girl, would you like a bowl? By some strange coincidence, even though I was not hungry, I still asked for a bowl with a blushing face. I sat on the threshold, eating hot porridge. Even though my clothes were in tatters, I felt very warm. After eating, I burped loudly, handed the bowl to the immortal, and said, thank you for the hospitality, immortal. The immortal paused, then took the bowl and said, young lady, just call me Taoist priest. I smiled and said, the Taoist priest looks like an immortal and is doing auspicious and good deeds. It's not an exaggeration to call him an immortal. After hearing this, the immortal didn't react at all. He put the bowl aside and just said, please do as you like. So cold. I looked at the furnishings in the courtyard. It was very simple, with a kitchen and a wooden house, but adding a fairy felt a bit inconsistent. When the immortal saw that I wouldn't leave, he asked, Miss, is there anything else? The voice said that he wanted me to leave. I said, nothing, I just want to ask the immortal, are the immortals always alone on weekdays? The immortal showed no expression, but what he said was coldly, no comment. I opened my mouth and lowered my voice. I just saw that the immortal's eyes were injured, and I heard that the immortal set up a stall to prepare porridge every day, so it must be very hard. I just asked, and I didn't mean to disturb the immortal. I'll just leave it now. Walk. The immortal called me from behind. Girl. Hey, dear, please come in and have a chat. I said cautiously, is there anything else, immortal? The immortal said, girl, please open the door. I found a place to hide on the ground and kept tapping the system in my head, but there was still only the sound of electricity, just like an old radio that was scrapped. Dumb system. In this way, I can't be sure whether the immortal is the main target to attack. What should I do if I have conquered the game but the system says it is wrong? I have conquered it in vain. But if I don't plan the strategy but the system says yes, then wouldn't I miss it? My head is in a mess. Just when I was at a loss what to do, I suddenly saw a very familiar figure. She was a woman, about 40 years old. It's obviously my first time here, but why does she look so familiar to me? The woman was pleading with a man, saying, please leave some food for our family, please. The man kicked her aside mercilessly. Go, go. Every household has a standard for harvesting grain. This year we will harvest so much. I have left some grain for your family. Don't bother me. Quote. The woman shouted, sir, that little food is not enough to eat, my lord. Seeing this, my mind stirred, and I remembered that this woman was Chin Che's aunt when he was a child, the aunt who stopped him from doing anything and quietly let him go. Compared with the one in her memory, the aunt in front of her is more vicissitudes of life and slightly older. I stepped forward out of nowhere, auntie. Before she could say a complete sentence, my aunt stepped back in panic. Go away, who is your aunt? I don't have any extra food for you, don't look for me. After saying that, she walked away quickly. Only then did I remember that I was still wearing tattered clothes. I had some simple robes in my backpack, but there was no place for me to bathe and change. I exchanged some of the food in my backpack for a few copper coins, and borrowed a place from a kind-hearted person to freshen up. After washing up, I felt physically and mentally comfortable. I didn't use the ancient bun, but just tied my hair casually. When I left, I put the only copper plate I had on the table and left. Thinking of the aunt I met just now, I realized that the system might have sent me to Chin Che's hometown. Suddenly, he remembered his promise to Chin Che that he would come with him when everything was settled. Well now, he didn't come, I came first. That's the bad thing about being a beggar, there's no place to stay. After being blown in the cold wind for an hour, I decided that I still had to find that immortal. No matter whether he was the target I needed to conquer, I would try my best to make him take me in. It's not because of beauty, it's because there isn't a shop in this town that accepts workers, and each family can't support themselves, let alone taking in a woman of unknown origin. While walking, I complained about the dog system. When I walked to the immortal's door, I mentally prepared myself and knocked on the door, but no one responded. But the room inside was lit, indicating that there must be someone there. Thinking that immortals could not see, he stood at the door and continued waiting, knocking on the door from time to time. Just hearing some noises from inside, the door opened. The immortal was only wearing a pair of inner clothes, maybe he was ready to turn off the lights and take a rest. I feel a little guilty thinking about this. The immortal said, who is it? I said, well, immortal, I am the girl who came to beg for porridge at noon today. The immortal understood and said, what can you do, girl, late at night? I spoke with some embarrassment. I wonder if the immortal can take the little girl in for the night. The immortal did not refuse immediately, but there was no other expression on his face. After a moment of silence, I looked at him doubtfully, immortal. The immortal said, that's inappropriate. It is really inappropriate for a man and a woman to be alone, and the night dew is deeper. I quickly said, immortal, the firewood shed is fine. I really can't bear the cold outside, so I came to trouble the immortal. There is no unified shelter in the town, and there is no place to take shelter from the wind. Some have already been occupied. I thought the immortal would still refuse, but I never thought he actually agreed. There is a woodshed, but the girl has to leave tomorrow. Tomorrow's things will be said tomorrow. It would be nice to find a place to take shelter from the wind. The immortal took me to the woodshed. There was a lot of straw in the woodshed, so I didn't have to worry about not being warm when I slept. I smiled and said thanks. Thank you, immortal. Immortal is such a good person. Seeing that the settlement was almost complete, the immortal turned around and left without saying anything. I thought of something and quickly stopped him. I still don't know what the immortal's name is. The fairy's blindfolded ribbon fluttered in the wind, and a faint sentence came, Jiang Yuchen. Isn't it good for the five of us to be together? Chapter 81. At night, I was too cold to sleep. I casually looked outside the door and found that the small room was still lit. Then I remembered that since the immortal couldn't see, he didn't know whether he had turned off the light or not. I don't know why the immortal became blind. Thinking that I had almost lost my sight before, I felt a little bit empathetic. I knocked on the system in my mind, but there was still no response. I took out a few more clothes from my backpack, put them on myself as a quilt, and fell asleep deeply. The next day I was woken up by the sound outside, and it was almost noon when I woke up. I can sleep really well. It was very lively outside. I stuffed all the clothes on my body back into my backpack and went out of the woodshed to take a look. A bunch of people were queuing up to wait for the immortal to give them porridge. The immortal was still wearing sky blue robes, but with an extra white cloak, which made him look even more cold and indifferent. Staying among the crowd again, somewhat unique. The beggars and refugees said too much but not too much, and said little but not too little. They gathered around the immortal and chatted, saying something to each other. The Taoist priest is so kind. Thank you, Taoist priest. I don't know which girl is lucky enough to marry a Taoist priest. As soon as the words fell, there was suddenly silence. A pair of eyes fell on me, and I suddenly felt a little uneasy. The immortal also felt something was wrong in the atmosphere and asked, but there is not enough porridge. Everyone hurriedly said, enough, enough, enough. It's just that the Taoist priest has a family, but he doesn't even say a word to us. He's a little out of touch. Yes, yes, yes. The immortal wondered, family. It happened that I coughed, causing the immortal to look at me. I said, good morning, immortal. The immortal was stunned for a while and said, you haven't left yet. I said, yes, I overslept today and just woke up. The immortal ignored me and just continued to hand out porridge. When everyone saw that the atmosphere between the two of us was not right, they all kept silent. I saw that the immortal was a little slow in distributing the porridge, so I consciously took over the task of distributing the porridge. I'll do it. The immortal has poor eyesight, so I can do this little thing like serving the porridge. The immortal didn't say much, so he handed me the spoon in his hand and stood aside without speaking. I handed out bowl after bowl, and after a while the porridge bottomed out. The homeless and beggars around me all ate the hot porridge. Seeing this, I moved the big pots back to the courtyard and actively rushed to clean them. After doing this, I realized that I hadn't eaten yet and my stomach was growling with hunger. The immortal stood nearby and obviously heard it. I was a little embarrassed. The immortal said, there is still a bowl hot in the kitchen. My eyes lit up. Was this specially reserved for me? I finished the porridge and went to look for the immortal. There was no one in the courtyard or outside the door. It should be inside the house. I knocked on the door and said, immortal. A voice came from inside, come in. When I entered the room and took a look, I found that the furnishings in the room were simple and there was a lot of room for movement. This must have been done deliberately because the immortal could not see it. The immortal sat on the chair and found a civet cat lying obediently in his arms. The immortal said, is the girl here to say goodbye? I knelt down with a plop and said, and Ping begs the immortal to take me in, even as a maid. The immortal touched the cat in his arms and said, girls have hands and feet, so they can find a chance of survival. There is no need to stay here with me. I continued, the immortal is a kind-hearted person, and Anping admires him very much. Moreover, Anping has been homeless for a long time and has no relatives. This world is very difficult for women, and they are alone wherever they go. The immortal must have many inconveniences on weekdays. Anping can read some words, cook and work, I just want the immortal to keep me as a maid. The immortal didn't speak, and his eyes were covered with a ribbon. I didn't know his expression, or in fact, from the beginning of seeing him, I didn't see any special expression on his face. It seems to be indifferent to everything. The immortal spoke, I only want people who are destined to be here. I wondered, destined person. The immortal faced me and said, what is your name? I said, Chen Anping, Ping Anzhen, the chosen one among the sparrows. The immortal stretched out his hand towards me and said, stretch out your hand. I reached over. The immortal said, I'm sorry. He rubbed the lines on my palm with his fingertips, very gently. His fingers were thin and slender, with white roots and slightly cool and itchy fingertips, which made me feel like there was a kitten scratching in my heart. The immortal paused suddenly, and I actually saw a trace of surprise on his face. I tried to ask, immortal, what's wrong? The immortal retracted his hand and continued to caress the civet cat in his arms. He only said, nothing, just stay here, the girl from the past. My eyes widened and I said in surprise, really, immortal? Can I stay? The immortal said, girl, you can change your mind. I am not an immortal, just call me by my name. I said, Jiang Yuchen. I don't know if I called his name, but the tubby cat opened its eyes, jumped out of his arms, and gathered around me to look at me. It even meowed, which was very cute. The immortal, oh no, it should be Jiang Yuchen said, I may have to force the girl to stay in the woodshed for a few days. I will have someone send the girl some quilts another day. I smiled and said, thank you, Director Jiang. And Ping is so polite. It's a little weird to call Jiang Yuchen by his first name. After all, he is now my boss, so it would be better to call him by his honorary name. Jiang Yuchen didn't care and let me do my own thing. It took me a few days to find out that the civet cat was not Jiang Yuchen's domestic cat, but a wild cat from outside. However, it liked Jiang Yuchen very much and often stayed in Jiang Yuchen's house and never left. But it likes me very much now. After all, I have its favorite dried fish in my backpack, and I take it out to try it from time to time. Jiang Yuchen is not from this small town. He is very mysterious. According to people in the town, he only came to this small town half a month ago. At first, he was a fortune teller, but because of his strange temperament, almost no one cared about him. Later, he suddenly set up a small stall and would provide porridge every day. Gradually, the homeless and beggars here all knew who he was, and he also gained a reputation for helping the world and saving people. But he was very alienated from people. He basically didn't speak to the people in the town, and he didn't know where he came from. I guess this kind of person would have a bit of a weird temper. But after spending the past few days together, I found that Jiang Yuchen was very polite to others, but he was also really indifferent and distant from the bottom of his heart. If no one talks to him, he can sit in his room for a day, or if the weather is nice, he will come out to bask in the sun, play with the civet cat, or sit in a daze while making porridge. He wasn't even bored. Isn't it good for the five of us to be together? Chapter 82 Meeting Aunt Again. What I have said to him these days is, what will Director Jiang eat today? Director Jiang, do you want me to help with the laundry? Director Jiang, does this porridge taste good? Director Jiang, the civet flower is running around in your room again. Li Hua is the Li Hua cat. When faced with my question, Jiang Yuchen just said calmly, you can. Trouble. It's okay. Nothing. I have long been accustomed to facing this. I guess Jiang Yuchen doesn't like to be disturbed all the time. I just make porridge, do laundry, and clean for him every day. Although I look like a maid, Jiang Yuchen never treats me like a maid, and he usually does what he can do himself. The two of us live together like a team, but we don't interfere with each other very much. People outside thought I was Jiang Yuchen's wife at first, but then they felt that the way we got along was wrong. After some questioning, they found out that I was taken in. Everyone felt a little more sympathy for me, and Jiang Yuchen seemed to have a little more humanity. Sometimes someone joked with me privately. Before, we thought that the Taoist priest was not concerned with worldly affairs, but now it seems that we are superficial. The Taoist priest is cold and indifferent on the surface, but he is warm-hearted at heart. I laughed twice and prepared to serve him another bowl. He declined. Leave this porridge for the people behind you. I'm full. These refugees are all kind people, and presumably this is why Jiang Yuchen helped them. But I don't know who Jiang Yuchen is. Not only he, but the food in the kitchen is enough for these refugees to last a month. When I saw it at the time, I was dumbfounded. Jiang Yuchen must be a hidden boss. Otherwise, how could he be able to support him every day? It was an ordinary day. There was a masked man next to Jiang Yuchen in the hospital, with only a pair of eyes exposed. I have seen this kind of masked man before. There are many around Ling Hongyuan, most of them are secret guards or killers. I sighed secretly, knowing that Jiang Yuchen was not simple. The masked man over there was obviously a little surprised when he saw me. But Jiang Yuchen's expression was indifferent, so he didn't ask any more questions. Jiang Yuchen did not avoid my conversation and only said, just give the bedding you brought to Miss Chen. The masked man looked at me and bowed to accept the order. Not long after, there was an extra bedboard in the woodshed, and he also helped lay out a quilt. The masked man stood in front of me and said, what else is missing, girl? I quickly said, there is no shortage. It is a great blessing that Director Jiang is willing to take me in. When the masked man saw this, he prepared to retreat. I stopped him and asked, this little brother, I don't know what to call him. The masked man bowed, I am the master's personal bodyguard. Please call me Yunze. I said, Anping is fine now, so don't disturb the Yun's guards. From that day on, Yun's has been following Jiang Yuchen, probably because of his temperament. If I hadn't asked more, Yun's, like Jiang Yuchen, talks little and is indifferent. The extra person is no different than before. It's just that Yun's rarely lets me wash Jiang Yuchen's clothes, and everything that goes into Jiang Yuchen's mouth must be tested by him. This further confirmed that Jiang Yuchen's identity was definitely not simple. After all, I had only seen this kind of operation at Ling Hongyuan's, and after I was poisoned, Qin Che specially found someone to taste the food for me. Of course, Yun's was very wary of me, and I also knew that he was very dissatisfied with Jiang Yuchen's decision to take in me, a person of unknown origin. I am also very discerning and rarely appear in front of them. Except when serving porridge on weekdays. Jiang Yuchen likes to stand nearby. He can't see it, but he seems to like listening to the people around him, even if it's just chatting. He had an indifferent temperament, but also some compassion. I usually do the porridge myself, but now there is Yun's. After I finish serving the porridge, Yun's will take over the job of washing the pots and dishes. So much so that I am very free now. I was afraid that one day Jiang Yuchen wouldn't like me and would let me leave. So I went out first, not to leave. The mattress was very comfortable, but I didn't want to let it go. The aunt I met a few days ago has always been in my mind. Coincidentally, I saw her at a glance today at Jiju. She came with a child to beg for some porridge. She didn't recognize me, which was normal. The last time she saw me, I was still a wandering beggar. This time, although I didn't look like a human or a dog, I was still neat and tidy. I thought maybe there was no food at home, so I had to come here to ask for porridge. In fact, Jiang Yuchen usually wouldn't give porridge to people like his aunt who have land and houses, but today he acquiesced, so I also filled a big bowl for my aunt and the child. My aunt kept saying thank you. Maybe it's because of blood relationship. She looks a bit like Qin Che, especially her nose. Seeing this, I was stunned. Girl Chen. Okay. Yun's interrupted my thoughts and said, girl, I'm going to take this pot in. Only then did I realize that the porridge in the pot had already bottomed out, so I set it aside. Although Yuns felt a little strange, he didn't ask any more questions and just silently brought the pot in. The aunt finished the porridge with the child and left. I followed silently. They passed through an alley and came to a place that I knew so well that I couldn't be more familiar with it. The ruins of the wooden house in front of you are overgrown with weeds, and you can vaguely see its previous layout. This is where Chin Che lived when he was a child, and I saw it being burned to ruins by fire. I sighed and noticed someone was looking at me. The aunt who was walking in front turned around at some point, looked at me from afar, and held the little child in her arms tightly. I slowly approached them, and my aunt just looked at me warily and said, "Is that you?" You must have recognized me, so I smiled and said, "Auntie, I'm fine." The aunt frowned. "I told you I'm not your aunt." She didn't know what she thought of, and she was stunned. "You?" She must have guessed what I was here for. I said, "Can my aunt still remember Brother Che from back then?" After hearing this, my aunt immediately grabbed my hand and asked me, "Brother Che? Do you know Brother Che? Is he still alive?" Zhu realized her gaffe and wiped the tears from her face. I said, "I know where Brother Che is, but his current status may not be convenient." I paused and realized that my current identity had nothing to do with Chin Che. I didn't know how to explain it. My aunt didn't notice anything was wrong with me. When she heard that Chin Che was still alive, she cried with joy, "It's good that he is still alive. Our family has a successor." I came back to my senses and remembered a point that I had been struggling with before, and asked, "Does Auntie know about the death of Brother Che's parents?" The aunt was stunned for a moment. "What? Isn't it good for the five of us to be together?" Chapter 83 Old Events of the Fang Family. My aunt was afraid that the walls had ears, so she took me to her house. A dilapidated but windproof house, with a small field behind it. There was a man lying on a small bed in the house. He seemed to be suffering from illness and could not get out of bed. The aunt said, "Girl, don't dislike it, the small house is a bit shabby." I smiled and said, "Nothing, I was a street kid before." Thinking of this, my aunt's eyes filled with tears again. Girl has suffered all these hardships, Brother Che must also have had a hard life. Come to think of it, our Fang family was also a prominent figure in this town in the past. Chin Che's father's surname was Fang. In the early years, the Fang family lived a rather privileged life and was a well-known scholarly family in the town. But at that time, due to partisan disputes and the invasion of enemies from the border, Nanyang accepted many men to fight on the battlefield, and the Fang family was no exception. But the descendants of the Fang family went to the battlefield and never came back. Perhaps they only had scriptures and poems and knew nothing about fighting. Since then, the Fang family has trained the children and grandchildren to learn martial arts, and they can also go into battle to kill the enemy and fight back and forth with the enemy. However, the good times did not last long, and a strange Taoist priest came to tell him that the descendants of the Fang family must no longer learn martial arts, otherwise the Fang family would have fewer descendants and fewer people in the future. The Fang family just thought he was here to ask for money and sent him away casually. No one paid attention to this little episode. But from that day on, bad news gradually came from the border, and the Fang family's descendants stayed on the battlefield one after another. In the end, only Chin Che's father was left. Fortunately, the border war came to an end, and Chin Che's father also escaped the disaster of going to the battlefield. Chin Che's father also got his wish and married a well-matched young lady. They got married and finally had Chin Che. I originally thought that things would turn around for the Fang family after this incident, but I never thought that such a disaster would befall little Chin Che. Chin Che had been stronger than his peers since he was a child, so Chin Che's father allowed him to learn martial arts despite his family's dissuasion, thinking that if Chin Che could join the army in the future, he would be successful. However, the ominous omen when Chin Che was born made people around him have an inherent prejudice against him, thinking that he was a disaster. Unfortunately, natural disasters came to this small town in those years, and the news that Chin Che was a disaster became more and more popular. In addition to the fact that the children in the town don't want to play with Chin Che, the people in the town also don't interact with the Fang family for fear of getting a little bit of bad luck. Because of this, Chin Che is withdrawn and paranoid, and has seen too many ugly faces in the world at a young age. Speaking of this, my aunt had already burst into tears. She didn't know why Chin Che's childhood was so unsatisfactory, and the Fang family slowly disappeared. The aunt said, "When Brother Che escaped, the Fang family fell completely, and people in the town robbed our house. My husband and I had no choice but to succumb to this hut and were not welcomed by others. Over the years, Brother Che has had no one. Sound, I thought. It was a great comfort to me to think that he was no longer in this world, but he is still here now. I couldn't bear it when I looked at this family, but I can directly say that Chin Che was now completely in the position of being a master." The aunt said, "Speaking of those years of running away, there is really a problem. Those people didn't want to drive away my eldest brother, but they wanted to directly kill my eldest brother. They have already been blamed for all the sufferings in those years. My eldest brother's family just moved away, how could it be so easy?" At that time, no one in the family was willing to help. After my elder brother and sister-in-law left, my husband and I burned some paper, but no one found their bodies. That group of people just wanted to set fire to kill people and seize other people's property. It's a pity that since that day, unclean things have often been seen in eldest brother's house, and the house has been left to this day, with no one daring to touch it. I said, "They have something wrong with them. The Fang family has a deep heritage, and gold, silver and jewelry are definitely indispensable." Everyone had already blamed the Fang family for the disaster they suffered, but Chin Che's father only said to move away. How could he leave so easily? There are traces of murder, arson, and destruction of corpses and traces. My blood started to feel cold, the cold wind was blowing outside, and the people in this town were all man-eating monsters. Girl Chen. I calmed down suddenly and realized that I had been biting my lip, and my face must have been extremely ugly. I said, "Auntie, Brother Che will come to you, and then they will all get the due retribution." Auntie, I am here. I took out my sleeves as a habit, planning to give some money to my aunt to support the family as before, but I found that I was just a maid now, my sleeves were empty, and I couldn't take out anything. My aunt saw my embarrassment and said with a smile, Miss Chen, I know that Brother Che is still alive, which is the greatest comfort. This is how we came here in the past. Miss Chen doesn't have to be like this. I sighed and moved my eyes to the man on the bed, who must be my aunt's husband. I asked, I wonder what disease this uncle is suffering from. The aunt said, they're all old illnesses. I have severe back pain. It must be from farm work. I can get out of bed after lying down for a few days. I thought for a moment and pretended to take out a few plasters from my sleeves, but in fact I took them out of my backpack. I said, put on these plasters and the pain will disappear in a few days. The aunt declined politely, how can I accept this? I forced it into her hand and said, Auntie, please wait a few more days, Brother Che will definitely come to you. My aunt's eyes were filled with tears, okay, he is a good boy. It's worth it for Brother Che to have a sweetheart like Miss Chen. I paused, my dear. I corrected, Auntie, I'm not. My aunt interrupted me with a smile, come on, my aunt thinks that Miss Chen is a perfect match for our Brother Che. I won't recognize anyone else who comes. I laughed twice. When she learns Chin Che's current identity, she will probably forget about me as a beggar. After leaving my aunt's hut, I realized that it was getting late, and my heart skipped a beat. I didn't tell Jiang Yuchen about going out today, and I didn't know if he would be angry. The next moment I rejected this idea. Jiang Yuchen's face was so otherworldly that he definitely wouldn't care what I did, so I walked back with a relaxed mind. I just didn't expect the slap in the face to happen so quickly. Jiang Yuchen was sipping tea in the courtyard, and Yun stood beside him and looked at me. Seeing this, I quickly stepped forward and said hello, Master Jiang, haven't you gone to bed yet? Yun's replied, it's still early, but the girl has been missing for a day. I wonder what she did. A very familiar temptation. I appeared in front of them inexplicably, and then disappeared inexplicably for a day. Everyone would doubt my purpose. I said, reminiscing about old times with the aunt I know, I forgot about the time. Auntie. This question was not asked by Yun's, but by Jiang Yuchen. I said, yes. Isn't it good for the five of us to be together? Chapter 84 Trust Step 1. Jiang Yuchen sighed and said, if Miss Chen wants to leave, then go. I was stunned. Leave. I haven't thought about leaving. Jiang Yuchen, but if you want to marry your aunt, don't you just want to leave? Hearing this, I smiled, Director Jiang, that aunt is not a relative of mine, but a relative of a friend. Today I am reminiscing with my aunt, that is, telling her about my friend's current situation so that she does not have to worry. It is not my intention. Leave. Jiang Yuchen seemed stunned for a moment, then he clenched his fists and covered his mouth, pretending that nothing happened. Yun said, girlfriend. That girl is not a wanderer. Before he could finish speaking, I interjected, that was before. All my relatives were killed on the battlefield, and my friends had already broken up with me. Today I am just thinking about old friendships, otherwise there would never be any contact. Yun's was dubious, but I think he should have believed it. First of all, Jiang Yuchen's identity is definitely not simple, so the people around him will definitely find out the details. But I have no details. I fell from the sky. There was no one like me before, so he will definitely not be able to find out. And today, since I have been out for so long, he must have come to check the reason. I have done nothing wrong, so I am definitely not afraid of him checking. The three of them were silent for a while, and Jiang Yuchen asked, what are your plans for the future, girl? I thought for a moment and said, go to Beiyin. Beiyin, what are you doing? I said, looking for someone, looking for an enemy. That's right, I came to see Qi Wanshan. If I approached him in my previous identity, he would definitely be suspicious of me, and I wouldn't be able to talk to him. Now, I am not Chen Yuji from Nanyang. Being close to him will save me some unnecessary trouble. I just didn't expect that Jiang Yuchen was from Beiyin. It's strange, people from Beiyin are setting up a stall to serve porridge on Nanyang's territory. It is truly a bodhisattva's heart. But that's okay, because when the time comes, you won't be alone. More than half of winter has passed, it is coming to an end, and spring is about to come. The number of homeless people and beggars is also slowly decreasing. I don't know whether it's because they haven't survived this winter or because they have found their own spring. Jiang Yuchen and I gradually became acquainted with Yun's. Although it was only a light one, at least we would let down our guard a little when we chatted and we would tease each other together. I often talk about how much I want to eat peach soup. The peach soup in the Prime Minister's mansion is really nostalgic. Yun's laughed at me. It's spring now, and girls are getting more and more talkative. I stuck out my tongue at him, and there was nothing left to eat. Isn't it okay for people to think about it? In addition to being Jiang Yuchen's personal bodyguard, Yun's is also a walking money bag. He brings all our food, clothing and clothing. Jiang Yuchen looked like a rich man on vacation, with nothing to worry about. It's quite comfortable to live like this. Jiang Yuchen also has a hobby, which is to listen to Yun's talk about major events in various places. I didn't care about it before, except for some things about the Nanyang royal family or the court. Why, since the Nanyang strategist retired, the young master of the family took over the ingenuity department. General Nanyang began to campaign on the border again. Why is Emperor Nanyang's temper getting worse and worse, but he rarely kills people? And many more. It's just that the rumors about me are more good than bad. There is actually no news about me leaking the drawings, as if it was deliberately hidden. Chen Yuji is still the same Chen Yuji who is praised by everyone. Doubts are doubts, and they have little to do with me. I care more about Jiang Yuchen's eyes now. One day, I accidentally bumped into Yun's applying medicine to Jiang Yuchen's eyes. Only then did I realize that Jiang Yuchen's eyes were not blind from birth, but from acquired blindness. When the two of them saw me, they didn't avoid me and continued to apply the medicine calmly. I put the prepared meal in front of them. Yun said, "Girl, take it first. Master, this medicine will take some time." They never called me a maid, they always called me a girl. I pretended to be unintentional and asked, "What's the reason for Director Jiang's eyes?" Yun hesitated for a while, but Jiang Yuchen said directly, "Poisoned." I paused reflexively. I had also been unable to see clearly due to poisoning before. These two are very coincidental, maybe they are the same type of poison. Seeing that neither Jiang Yuchen nor Yun's wanted to continue talking, it was not convenient for me to ask more questions. But the imperial doctor had made some prescriptions for me before. Although they couldn't cure the problem, they could provide some relief for a while. I don't know if it would be useful for Jiang Yuchen. Of course it's useless. When I saw Jiang Yuchen making medicine by himself in front of the hospital, I knew that there were many things not simple about this man. I saw Jiang Yuchen was the only one in the hospital, so I stepped forward and asked, "How come Master Jiang can cook the medicine by himself? Where is the guard Yun's?" Jiang Yuchen just sat in front of the medicine pot and said calmly, "He just went out because of something." I understand that Yun's would not let a blind person cook medicine. I asked, "Is what is frying in this pot Jiang Dao Chang's eye medicine?" Originally it was just a casual question and I didn't think Jiang Yuchen would reply to me, but he still answered, "Yes." Seeing this, I pressed forward and continued to ask, but I remember that there was still a lot of the ointment in the jar before, so why did the Taoist master have to boil it again? Jiang Yuchen faced me, his fair skin looking a little pale under the winter sun. He said, "The girl is very careful, but the ointment was useless for my eyes, so she adjusted other prescriptions." I was surprised. The Taoist priest tried the medicine on himself. Jiang Yuchen, why not? Why not? It's medicine that's 3 parts poison. I thought that a person like him must have a special status. Others should do the testing of medicines, and he shouldn't be the one to test medicines himself. When Jiang Yuchen saw that I didn't say anything, he said, "Girl, you think that since I am a noble person, you should let the subordinates try the medicine before handing it over to me, right?" Seeing his calm expression, I said, "Yes." Jiang Yuchen's face became even more dissatisfied. I quickly continued, "But it's not that. I don't dare to figure out the identity of the Taoist priest. It's just that the Taoist priest is kind and compassionate. I really can't bear to take the risk of the Taoist priest." "Jiang Yuchen, what do you want to say?" I said, "The Taoist master is kind to Enping. From now on, Enping will try the Taoist master's medicine himself." Jiang Yuchen. There was silence in the courtyard. Li Hue came and nuzzled Jiang Yuchen's feet. Yun's happened to come back at this time and saw me kneeling on the ground, very confused. "Yun's, Miss Chen, this is." "Jiang Yuchen, stand up." I said, "Yes." Seeing Yun's looking at me doubtfully, Jiang Yuchen had no intention of speaking and just held Li Hue in his arms. I had no choice but to say, I told Director Jiang that I would try the next medicine. Yun's retorted without thinking, "How can a girl try this kind of thing?" I smiled lightly and said, "My father was a doctor in the village during his lifetime, and he often took me to collect medicines. On weekdays, I would also follow my father to treat the villagers, and I knew a little bit about medicine. Director Jiang and Yun's guards don't have to worry, they can test medicines. It's a small matter, besides, the medicinal materials used have been inspected by Director Jiang. If guard Yun's doesn't believe me, doesn't he still believe Director Jiang? Pharmacology, of course, is not possible. Although I drank a lot of medicine before and was often exposed to medicinal materials, I could only recognize a few simple medicines and didn't know much about pharmacology. I have to give my identity when I go out, and I believe that Jiang Yuchen will never let me drink poison." "Yun's, that's not what I meant." "Let her try." Jiang Yuchen spoke. So I successfully took on such an important task, which can be regarded as the first step to make Jiang Yuchen trust me. Isn't it good for the 5 of us to be together? Chapter 85 Goodbye Chin Che. After I learned that Jiang Yuchen was from Beiyan, I knew that this place was just a small place for Jiang Yuchen to stay. Maybe he was passing by for fun, or maybe he was looking for medicinal materials. I prefer the latter. After all, Jiang Yuchen doesn't look like an idler. I sighed. Without the system, it was difficult to determine the identity of this person. But what is gratifying is that Jiang Yuchen is also going back to Beiyan, which coincides with my destination. I just don't know if he is willing to give me a ride. I tentatively asked Yun's, "Guard Yun's, when will we leave here?" Yun's asked me back, "Why do you want to ask this girl?" I said, "I'm afraid I'll be in a hurry and delay Director Jiang's schedule." Yun smiled and said, "Girl, don't worry, we will leave as soon as spring comes. There are still a few days left." I was very happy. After all, what he said was that they would take me with them without refusing. I said, "Can the Yun's guard tell us where we will go in the end?" Yunze said, "I don't dare to speculate on the master's thoughts. I will be wherever the master goes. The master likes to walk around, so I will accompany him everywhere." I nodded, "Thank you, Guard Yun's, for telling me this. I will always accompany Dao Zhang Jiang." Suddenly there was a coughing sound, and Jiang Yuchen stood at the door of the house at some point. The tip of his nose was slightly red, probably because of the cold wind blowing. He said, "Girl, stop saying these things." I walked over and said, "If you really want to leave the Taoist priest, you have to wait until the Taoist priest's eyes are healed and see the Taoist priest's true appearance. The Taoist priest is graceful and graceful. I believe the Taoist priest's eyes are also very beautiful." Getting closer, I could carefully see Jiang Yuchen's hesitant expression. Yunze said, "Miss Chen, don't say such things to my master. He has had little contact with women since he was a child. Your words are just to make my master blush." Jiang Yuchen had no expression, but Yun's was blushing, and he thought I was teasing him. Since Jiang Yuchen couldn't see me, I made faces at Yun's to make him talk more. Yuns, you, girl, please don't think so. I'm afraid it's hard for you to see my master's eyes. Me, why? Jiang Yuchen said, the poisoning is deep and there is no antidote in the world. After saying that, he walked into the house. Coincidence. It was also poisoning that caused blindness, and there was no antidote. Could it be that Jiang Yuchen and I were poisoned by the same kind of poison? Yuns remained where he was and said, girl, please stop thinking about it. The master doesn't know the warmth and coldness of love. If the girl does too much, I'm afraid the master will also be bored. I lowered my eyes to show that I understood. Seeing me like this, Yuns comforted me. Didn't the girl say that she wanted to eat peach soup before? There are several peach blossom trees in the town that will bloom after spring. I may not be able to make peach soup, but peach blossom soup should be good. I smiled and said, thank you, God Yuns, for informing me. After spring began, as Yuns said, the peach trees bloomed. I picked a few and took them back. I saw Jiang Yuchen and Yuns in the courtyard, waiting for a long time. Yunze said, Master, what do you mean by this? Miss Chen must have gone to pick peach blossoms. Jiang Yuchen, peach blossom. Has it bloomed now? Jiang Yuchen couldn't see it, so I put a peach blossom in his hand and said, yes, Taoist priest, it's blooming a lot. When I finished brewing it, Taoist priest, take a bite. It's very sweet. After hearing what I said, Jiang Yuchen's lips showed a smile, okay. Seeing this, I am already looking forward to the arrival of the next day. What a ghost, why didn't you tell me that we were going to set off on the second day? Yuns looked at me hurriedly packing my things and said, you're so understanding, girl. It's true that I forgot. I had no time to pay attention to him. While cleaning up, I also had to take care of the peach blossom soup I was still making. Fortunately, I didn't have much when I came, so it wasn't a hassle to put it away, and I had enough energy to cook the soup. Otherwise, if my peach blossom soup gets mushy because of this, I will be the first to do it to Yuns. Yunze said, Master just asked me to ask Miss Chen, do you want to say goodbye to your aunt? I declined. After all, they're not my relatives. We have already talked about it properly before, and there is no need to say goodbye again. Just leave the rest to Chin Che, he will definitely take care of it. The meowing sound in the courtyard interrupted my thoughts, and I remembered that there were raccoon flowers. When I walked out of the room, I saw that Li Hua was still next to Jiang Yuchen, as if Jiang Yuchen was some kind of sweet and sour cake, spending all day long. Jiang Yuchen was dressed in blue-green casual clothes today. He had a high ponytail tied with a wooden hairpin and a silk scarf over his eyes. He had an indescribable feeling. Jiang Yuchen loves green and blue robes, and he has rarely been seen wearing other colors. I asked, does the Taoist priest want to take Li Hua away? Jiang Yuchen was silent for a while and said, if the girl wants to, then take her with you. I smiled and said, thank you, Taoist master. It was packed very quickly, there wasn't much in the first place, and the carriage was already waiting at the door. Although the carriage is not very luxurious, based on my eye for drawings these days, it is easy to see that this carriage is very beautifully made. They use good horses, and the carriages are made of good wood. The interior is very warm and comfortable, it's simply a high-end version. Jiang Yuchen said, I'm afraid I have to wrong the girl to ride in the same carriage. I smiled and said I was not wrong. When I was about to get into the carriage, I pinned a peach blossom I picked yesterday on the carriage. Yuns asked, girl, what do you mean by this? To attract peach blossoms. I said, what is the god Yuns thinking? This is a symbol of yearning for a better life. Jiang Yuchen didn't say anything after hearing this. He just asked Yuns to put the peach blossom soup I had prepared on the carriage, and then got on his own. The carriage is very comfortable to sit in, the buttocks don't hurt, and there are very few bumps on the road. However, I don't know if Yuns has opened his mouth and said whatever he wants will come. The carriage drove for a while and suddenly stopped. I heard the sound of many horse hooves outside, and my curiosity drove me to open the curtain and take a look. You didn't know this, and you were shocked when you saw it. By coincidence, you met Chin Che's eyes. I quickly lowered the car curtain, still feeling terrified. Maybe I made too much noise, so Jiang Yuchen asked, what's wrong? I calmed down and said, nothing. I felt relieved when I thought that I had already changed my face and Chin Che would never recognize it. I don't know why Chin Che suddenly appeared near Yangwin town with a group of people. Did he want to ask his aunt about what happened back then? Isn't it good for the five of us to be together? Chapter 86 General has a bright future ahead. I was so anxious to hide just now that I didn't see Chin Che's expression clearly. His eyes had been injured for so long, and his appearance was actually a bit unfamiliar to me. A burst of electricity in my head brought me back to reality. Me. System. Still no response. The carriage continued to move forward. Forget it. If there is no response, there will be no response. Anyway, I am leaving Nanyang. By the time the system is repaired, I will have already arrived in Beiyin. Just as I was about to continue eating my peach blossom soup, the carriage stopped again. Hi. Jiang Yuchen also realized something was wrong and asked, what's going on outside? Yun's voice came from outside, Master, you may have to step forward. Jiang Yuchen saw this and got out of the carriage. There was chatter outside, and it was Chin Che who stopped the carriage. I weakly opened the corner of the car curtain, just wanting to see what was going on outside. At this glance, I met Chin Che's eyes again. I didn't show it on my face, but my heart was already beating wildly. Although I knew he would not recognize me, I still felt an inexplicable guilty conscience. I nodded and smiled at him, and he was obviously stunned. After taking a closer look, I found that his eyes were a little blue, he was very tired, and he felt a little less energetic. What happened to Nanyang recently? Why does Chin Che look so tired? Jiang Yuchen, General, is there anything else? Chin Che came back to his senses and said, I wonder if I can ask, who is the girl in the young master's car? My heart tightened and I quickly lowered the car curtain, just listening to what was going on outside the car. Jiang Yuchen didn't answer for a long time. After a long time, he said, I'm afraid something is wrong. She is a woman and the general is a strange man. It would be rude to offend like this. That's right, I was nodding wildly in the car. I hadn't seen him for more than 2 months, and Chin Che was becoming more and more rude. I heard Chin Che say from outside the car, I didn't think carefully. It's just that the girl is very similar to an old friend of this general, so I'm a little anxious. An old friend. I brought up the mirror that came with the system and was very confused. It was obvious that this didn't look like me before. Which old friend did it look like? I was still thinking about how to send Chin Che away, but Jiang Yuchen said directly, sister-in-law. Chin Che, sister-in-law. Jiang Yuchen was not a talkative person, and Yuns was basically talking from behind, General, if everything is okay, we will continue on our way. There is still some distance between Yangwin Town and Beiyan, so we are afraid of delaying the time. Chin Che was a little reluctant, as if he wanted to break the casserole and ask the end. The peach blossoms on this car mean beauty, and they're shining with beauty. Do you like peach blossoms, sir? Yun said, the girl liked it, so she broke a branch. After hearing this, Chin Che's tone became even more urgent. May I ask what the girl's name is? There was silence outside. I tightened my sleeves on the carriage, sighed, and said, General, the little girl's surname is Chen and her name is Anping. I wonder what the general wants. Chin Che was far more thoughtful than me. He said, Miss, is she from Nanyang? I heard a little excitement in his voice, and I had an indescribable feeling. I said, the family was in decline, they left their hometown, their relatives died, and only one child was left. Fortunately, Dao Chief Jiang rescued him, and he survived. The rest of the matter has been forgotten by Anping, and the general does not need to ask any more. Chin Che, that girl has sisters. Before he could finish his question, I interrupted him, God Yuns, please give the peach blossom branch in the car to this general. I'm afraid Anping has a close affinity with the general, and the general is so concerned about him, so here it is. I want to say goodbye and wish you a happy future, General. There was no sound outside, and my palms were sweaty. Now was not the time to recognize each other. I was afraid that Chin Che would interrupt my plan to go to Beiyan. To put it bluntly, it would be better to be ruthless. But I still don't think he recognized me. After all, Chen Yuji died in front of him. I'm afraid he felt that I was similar to Chen Yuji, and thought that I was Chen Yuji's long-lost sister. Jiang Yuchen got on the carriage, and I helped him sit down. His expression was still calm, and I couldn't guess what he was thinking. The carriage was about to set off when Chin Che suddenly asked from outside, what are the two characters for girl? He seemed to be suppressing something, as if he was struggling internally, and his tone was hesitant. I said, peaceful and joyful and, the bird's chosen screen. The carriage finally moved on. After this, I drank a few more bowls of peach blossom soup. Although it is not as delicious as peach soup, it is sweeter than peach soup. After a long journey, I feel less tired after eating it. I thought Jiang Yuchen was the kind of person who didn't care about worldly affairs, but I didn't expect him to ask, are the general and the girl an old acquaintance? I skipped a beat in my heart and said, I don't know him. Jiang Yuchen said nothing again. I drank my peach blossom soup in silence, keeping Jiang Yuchen out of sight and looking at his expression unscrupulously. Unfortunately, there are no flaws. Just after a while, Jiang Yuchen said, girl, you don't have to look at me all the time. Me, can he see it? Jiang Yuchen seemed to know my doubts and said, this is the first time Jiang has experienced the girl's straightforward eyes. It is difficult for people to ignore. Me, Director Jiang, I really don't know that general. I'm afraid the general missed my old friend and mistook me in a hurry. Jiang Yuchen took a sip of tea and said, nothing. It's not convenient for Jiang to ask more about the girl. Jiang Yuchen really didn't care, as if there was nothing in the world that he cared about. I sighed inwardly, it was good this way to avoid the trouble of asking later. Just thinking about Chin Che, I still have mixed feelings. I hope that by going to Yangwin Town this time, he can get rid of his childhood troubles and catch the culprit. This episode seems to have been taken away like this. It should be like. The carriages stopped on the road. Jiang Yuchen didn't like busy places, so he usually walked around the town. Another point is that Jiang Yuchen needs to find the herbs he needs along the way. He is proficient in pharmacology, and I suspect that he may be some mysterious doctor in Beiyan. We sat on a small grass field and stayed here for a while. Jiang Yuchen was boiling medicine. This time the smell of medicine was stronger than before. I took the bowl of medicine before Jiang Yuchen could get it. Yuns also moved a step slower than me. Girl. Jiang Yuchen grabbed my wrist and forced me to put down the medicine. Girl, you don't have to do this. Jiang Yuchen looked frail and sickly, but he had so much strength. I would be the first to try the medicines along the way, and there was no problem. Jiang Yuchen was silent all the time. I thought he acquiesced to my attempt to test the medicines. I said, Anping is worried about Director Jiang. Jiang Yuchen said, my life is not nobler than yours. I wanted to say something else, but Jiang Yuchen interrupted me, I'm not sure about the medicine this time either. I asked, is it poisonous? Jiang Yuchen, yes. I laughed, then I will try even more. While Jiang Yuchen was stunned for a while, I grabbed the bowl and took a big drink. Bitterness is really bitter. Isn't it good for the five of us to be together? Chapter 87 I feel sorry for the Taoist priest. Jiang Yuchen pursed his lips, not knowing what he was thinking. After I drank it, I found that there were no side effects, so I told him that it was okay to drink it. Jiang Yuchen opened his mouth, not knowing what to say, so he just said, okay. I walked to the carriage and took out 2 candied fruits from my baggage. After eating one, I felt the bitterness dissipate a little. I handed the other one to Jiang Yuchen. Taoist master, eating 1 candied fruit will not be so painful. Jiang Yuchen politely declined. No, good medicine is bitter and good for the disease. If you eat sweet medicine, the effect of the medicine will not be so good. I retracted my hand and said, that's right. Yun's looked at me sideways with a gloating expression on his face. I glared at him. I want you to take care of it. I put away the candied fruits. If I don't use them now, I will use them in the future. This is already the boundary of Beiyin. I thought Jiang Yuchen would stay here for a few days, but I never thought that he seemed to have no intention of staying. Before I could ask, Jiang Yuchen asked me first, where is the girl going to Beiyin? Can Yun see you off? Yun's, master, my subordinate's duty is to protect you. I said, there is no need to trouble Chief Jiang and the guards of Yun's. Anping is going to the capital of Beiyin on this trip. If there is no way, Anping can go there himself. Jiang Yuchen, no need. I'm on my way this time. I was a little surprised to find out that Jiang Yuchen was also going to the capital of Beiyin. But someone like him must be a prominent and wealthy family in the capital. But I remember that in the historical records of Nanyang, there was no one who was blind and proficient in pharmacology. It may be that the historical data of Nanyang are not complete enough. The electricity in his brain began to sizzle again. Since entering the Beiyin realm, the sound of electric current in the system began to appear frequently, as if it was excited. I don't know when it will be repaired. Get on the carriage and move on. There was a bit of silence in the car. Jiang Yuchen felt a little strange today, but there was something about it that he couldn't put his finger on. Jiang Yuchen, why are you like this? Some of the prefaces didn't match the afterwords, so I said, did the Taoist ask me why I went to the capital of Beiyin? Jiang Yuchen, no, why do you insist on testing the medicine for me? I didn't expect him to ask this, and I couldn't say anything for a while. Jiang Yuchen, if it's not convenient for you to tell me, you don't need to answer. Maybe it's because the Taoist priest always thinks of others. Although the Taoist priest was cold when I first met him, he still gave me a bowl of porridge, and later he also took in me, a strange woman who came from nowhere. The Taoist priest seems to have always been so kind, and he has no reason to be kind to others. And don't ask for anything in return. Like guard Yun's, although Anping is a layman, it is rare for a servant to be so harmonious and close to his master. Anping has tried so many kinds of medicines and knows how bitter these medicines are. Taoist priest, every time I take the medicine, I don't say a word and just keep everything in my stomach. If you want to talk about why you tested the medicine for the Taoist like this, it is undeniable that firstly, you want to repay the Taoist for taking you in. Secondly, Anping is a layman. If he can be Taoist, you will have no worries about food and clothing in the future. Quote. Speaking of this, Jiang Yuchen's expression seemed to have cracks. He didn't like to show his emotions, but this time, his hands were clenched tightly. Nervous, or are you disdainful of my behavior? The last and most important point is that Anping feels sorry for Taoist priest. Jiang Yuchen's tight thread seemed to be suddenly disconnected, and he was a little confused, feeling distressed. I replied, yes, the Taoist master carries everything on his own. Anping feels very distressed and thinks that if he cannot share the Taoist master's suffering, then he must bear it with the Taoist master. Jiang Yuchen, you don't have to be like this. Necessary. I slowly moved to his side, and seeing that he didn't respond, I pulled off the gauze covering his eyes. Jiang Yuchen's eyelashes are very long, and they can be seen more clearly on his sickly white skin. They're thick and dark, as if they have been stained by ink. I don't know what it looks like with these eyes open. It must be beautiful. Jiang Yuchen, you are impudent. Seeing his face turn red, I smiled lowly and said, the most difficult thing in the world is to feel the same way. Taoist priest, Anping has also been blind before. It's also poisoning. This poison will cause the eyes to become hot and unable to open at first, and then the poison will slowly spread to the entire eyes, from blurring in front of the eyes to finally blindness. The poison in this world can cause this kind of poison, so it is the kind of poison in foreign lands. Jiang Yuchen didn't say anything, just acquiesced. I know all the hardships Taoist master has endured, so I feel sorry for him even more. Jiang Yuchen didn't show any emotion after listening, but I seemed to hear him sighing leisurely and saying, did anyone say before that Miss Chen has a clever mouth? I was stunned, thinking that both Qin Che and Ling Hongyuan had said it, and I was in a daze. Someone did say it. If it weren't for the selection mode of the previous system, I would be able to say it even better in front of Qin Che Ling Hongyuan. Jiang Yuchen, I am born to serve the people. I don't have the suffering that the girl said. There was a smile on Jiang Yuchen's face. It was very light, but it was enough. I said, but no one lives for the people. A Taoist priest is a Taoist priest, and he lives for himself. Jiang Yuchen, you will know later. Without further ado, I was attracted by Jiang Yuchen's eyelashes, and I didn't know if I would feel itchy if I put my hands on them. Jiang Yuchen, Miss Chen, should you put on the gauze for me? I reacted, oh, yes. The Taoist priest's eyes are so beautiful, I'm a little fascinated. Jiang Yuchen, the girl's words are still as bold as ever. I smiled, arranged the gauze and put it on for him. It's a pity that I can't watch it for a while. I subconsciously said, we must detoxify the Taoist master. Then you can see what kind of eyes are under the gauze. Jiang Yuchen, it's a little difficult. I asked, how long has Taoist master been poisoned? Jiang Yuchen, a few years ago. I am surprised, how many years have passed and the poison has not been cured. It's so puzzling. But I remember the system mentioned before that it seems to have an antidote. But the system generally does not interfere with these things in the small world. The system actually has an antidote to this poison. Is it a bug in this small world? Just as I was thinking about it, suddenly there was a noise outside. When he opened the car curtain, he saw that he had reached the main road from Beiyin to the capital. There were many carriages on the road, but there were even more carriages transporting grain. Bayan was worthy of being proficient in agriculture. We are already on the road that must be passed to the capital city of Bayan, and we must be arriving at the capital city soon. A face with a gentle smile suddenly appeared in my mind, and the next moment there was an evil and cold smile, and I couldn't help but tremble all over. Chi Wanshan, we will meet again soon. Isn't it good for the five of us to be together? Chapter 88 System Restart. As we were about to enter the city, the sound of electric current in the system in my brain became louder and louder, giving me a headache. As I sat on the carriage, I felt the noise outside was getting louder and louder, but I didn't feel anything was wrong. I thought it was just the bustling capital of Bayan. I didn't realize something was wrong until the electricity in my head kept ringing. It was getting more and more lively outside. I opened the curtain and saw a bunch of people holding wheat ears on the road, cheering outside with smiles on their faces. Who are they welcoming? Suddenly something clicked in his mind, and he realized that the carriage he was riding on did not even pause at all on the road with so many people. Is it possible? I turned to look at Jiang Yuchen beside me, and saw that he had a calm face, without any surprise. I asked my doubts, are they welcoming the Taoist priest? Jiang Yuchen smiled, yeah. But it's not me who's welcoming. I said, who is that? The electric sound in my head is getting louder and louder, as if it is breaking through some barrier. Jiang Yuchen, let me introduce you to my lady again. I am the Imperial Master of Bayan, Jiang Yuchen. The system sound came suddenly. Drop. System repair completed. The newborn system has been upgraded to version 2.0. Please host experience it one by one. Checking host strategy progress. Drop. Congratulations to the host for starting to unlock the Bayan plotline. Close hollow corner bracket. Drop. Congratulations to the host for unlocking the Bayan capital city map. Close hollow corner bracket. Drop. New capture target detected. Close hollow corner bracket. Drop. Transmitting strategy target information. Name, Jiang Yuchen. Age, 22. Sex, male. Identity, National Preceptor of Bayan Kingdom. Personality, indifferent. Shards, 0. I was startled by this burst of electronic sound. Jiang Yuchen seemed to feel my movements and asked, girl, is it hard to accept it? No, I accepted it. This was simply a happy event from heaven. The person I had been with for many days was actually a target for strategy. I rubbed my temples to avoid having too much of a headache. I said, Taoist priest. No, National Master, No, it's not hard for ordinary people to accept it, I'm just a little surprised. Jiang Yuchen, you can just call yourself as usual. You are considered mine now, so there is no need to be cautious. His people. My face turned red, but I didn't say it in my tone. I have long heard that the Bayan Imperial Master has great virtues and praise for the people. He takes the people's worries as his worries and the people's joy as his joy. The people especially recommend, love and support him. Seeing this scene today, it is really different. Extraordinary. Jiang Yuchen was still calm. These are just responsibilities, girls don't need to respect them so much. Seeing that he was silent, I didn't say anything anymore. Thinking of the historical materials I read in Nanyang before, they said it was just a legend and not enough to be taken seriously. Now that this scene is right in front of us, I have to sigh about something special about Bayan. At first, I thought that the Imperial Master was just as prestigious as the Prime Minister of Nanyang, but I didn't expect that it was even more prestigious. If the Prime Minister saw such a scene, he would probably be even more impressed. This carriage should be a carriage specially designed for the Imperial Army. The decorations on the carriage, such as pictures, texts, talismans, and other symbols, are different from the ordinary patterns. Stars twinkle in the daylight, and traces of wandering images and text can be clearly seen at night. I thought it was a luxury item for a rich man, but now that I think about it, this is the only one I have. I quietly opened the car curtain and looked outside. Jiang Yuchen said, girl, don't let them look at you. I wondered, what does this mean? Jiang Yuchen, the last time I got on the carriage, the outsiders were condemned by everyone. If the girl doesn't want to bear some unnecessary spit, the girl should lower the curtain. I put it down obediently. Although the people outside were far away, I only opened a small corner. They must not be able to see the inside of the car clearly, but it is better to do less than to do more. I drank tea, quietly listening to the cheers outside, and glanced at Jiang Yuchen intentionally or unintentionally. I guessed that he must have a prominent life experience, but I didn't guess at the national master of a country, and I didn't expect that the one I wanted to conquer was actually an extremely popular national master. You know, I have always thought that the national preceptor of Bayan Kingdom is just a legend and does not really exist. Mystery is the label of the national preceptor. But now I find that Jiang Yuchen not only has no heirs, but also really has the feeling of harmony between man and nature. Apart from rarely speaking, he is generally very approachable and easy to get along with. I sipped my tea and thought about something that happened recently. Thinking of the unreliable system in my mind, I doubted its purpose of putting me in Yangwon town. There was gradually no sound outside the car, but I still didn't dare to open the curtain again. It must be almost here. After a while, the car stopped, and Yunzi's voice came from outside, Master, Miss Chen, we're here. Jiang Yuchen got out of the car first, and then I was about to get off, when suddenly a hand stretched out in front of my eyes. Jiang Yuchen, girl, give me your hand. I was stunned, put my hand on his, and used its strength to get out of the car. After a while, I realized that I was in a sea of flowers. Not counting the sea of flowers, there are many vegetable baskets at the entrance of the Imperial Master's mansion, such as egg baskets, fruit and vegetable baskets, wheat baskets. The entire entrance is almost filled. It's no wonder that Jiang Yuchen helped me down just now. The space we were standing on was not big enough for a small staircase. The servants in the mansion received the order and filed out of the mansion. To their surprise, both men and women wore veils and had uniform bells hung on red ropes, which was very mysterious. After the servants in the mansion packed the things at the door, I followed Jiang Yuchen into the mansion. Yun's asked, "Master, are these things still handled in the same way?" Jiang Yuchen nodded. Yun's took the order and went out. Just listen to Yun saying to a few servants, "Send these things to the refugee camp and go quickly." Yes. I understand. I saw something like a maid walking towards me, holding the same veil and red string bell as them. Jiang Yuchen, just tie a bell on this girl, and the veil will be unnecessary. The maid said, "Yes, sir." Jiang Yuchen explained to me, ringing the bell can ensure peace. The Beiyin Imperial Preceptor Temple. All the imperial preceptors of the past dynasties are buried in the temple. They are all meant to pray for blessings. You can just accept it with peace of mind. You are not a maid in my house, veil. I won't wear it anymore. I lowered my eyes and said, whatever the imperial preceptor says is what it is. I was assigned to a remote wing, which was not considered remote, because all the wings in this mansion were very remote. In comparison, this isn't too biased for me. Jiang Yuchen was called into the palace and didn't know what to do. What I understand is that the imperial preceptor is as powerful as the regent, but they actually have no real power. I stayed in the tub, and the hot water washed away the fatigue on my body. But the system voice in my head kept saying, "Please host, please complete tonight's storyline. Please host, complete tonight's story. Close hollow corner bracket. Tonight. Is the plot going to start so soon?" I asked in my heart, why did the system fail before? Quote. The system detected that the host soul fragments are incomplete. The mechanical sound at this time is weaker than usual. What's missing? Whose soul fragment? What are you saying? When the host withdraws from the world, his emotions are so strong that his soul remains. I stood up suddenly. No, where is the advanced system we agreed on? What's the promise that it will never go wrong? Are you telling me that I don't have all the pieces now? It was still a bit cold at the beginning of spring, so I got excited and retreated back into the tub. Please host, please complete tonight's storyline. Close hollow corner bracket. Don't go, I don't have all the soul fragments left. If I'm in danger and get frightened, I won't be able to lose my soul. Really unreliable. A large compensation package has been issued to the host. I don't care about any big gift packages. The moment I saw the gift package, I took back what I was about to say. Encyclopedia of Pharmacology. This is simply a good tool for me to conquer Jiang Yuchen. Is there any antidote to some exotic poison in it? A comprehensive collection of pharmacology, poisons and antidotes. Good. The host soul fragment system will solve it. Host, please rest assured. Close hollow corner bracket. After the host completes tonight's storyline, there will be a surprise gift package. Close hollow corner bracket. I am full of energy again. Tonight's plotline is decided by me. Change into your robes and look clean and tidy. Now get ready to leave the house neatly. Girl. I paused in my steps. It was the maid from this morning. The maid asked, is the girl going to leave the house now? I blinked and nodded directly. Yes, I heard the Beiyin capital city is prosperous and I want to go shopping. The maid continued, the girl needs to be accompanied by a servant. The night is getting late and it might not be good for the girl to be alone. I waved my hand. No, thank you for your kindness. I'll be back after a bit of shopping. I won't be out for too long. After thinking for a while, he asked again, is the Imperial Master in the mansion? The maid said, the Imperial Master is still in the palace. I nodded, said hello and left. I thought she was going to stop me from going out, but I didn't expect it was just out of concern. As expected, the servant followed the master and was very kind. I followed the system instructions and headed to the location. The streets in Beiyin are brightly lit at night. Unlike Nanyang, the stalls sell basically agricultural products, and they can also barter for goods. No wonder the business is not good, but the atmosphere is excellent. When the vendors saw me, they kept bringing things to my arms. They had everything, enough for a meal. Drop. The host has arrived at its destination. Close hollow corner bracket. I stopped. There was an open space with an alley next to it. There were few people here and it wasn't bright enough. I heard slight noises, and I wondered if the system had brought me to some murder scene. Big sister. I was attracted by sound, and there was a child in the dark looking at me with his big eyes, very curious. The child looks very cute even though he is 9 or 10 years old. I was about to walk over and ask him why he was alone. He suddenly said, is the eldest sister here to kill me? I paused and was still thinking about why he thought this way. He had already started to run away. The next moment, a dart accurately hit the ground where he was. I was stunned for a while before I thought about running. Dog system, you really know how to lead. Wherever there is danger, take it with you, right? The child was not running fast. When he saw me catching up, he immediately grabbed the corner of my clothes. Why does my little ancestor still depend on me? Obviously, the hidden weapons at the beginning were all aimed at him. Seeing him suddenly following me, hidden weapons also started flying towards me. Seeing this, knowing that I couldn't escape this disaster, I simply carried the boy and ran away. I don't know where I got so much strength. It's a matter of life and death, and my explosive power is amazing. The little boy didn't make any fuss, he just lay down obediently and said, big sister, if you hold on a little longer, someone will come to rescue us soon. I can't hold it any longer. Obviously, although my physical fitness level is higher than before, it is still very difficult to avoid these killers with martial arts skills, and there are already scars on my body. I didn't know where I was going to escape, I just knew that I entered a small alley and ran to nowhere. Damn, no luck tonight. The little boy hid behind me, shivering. I said, don't go out alone at night in the next life, forget it in this life. The little boy didn't speak, he just silently grabbed the corner of my clothes. He must be very scared. If we are in Nanyang, I think there is still a glimmer of hope. After all, hugging Ling Hongyuan and Chin Che's thigh is not just talk, it can save lives at critical moments. But this is Bayan, and he is unfamiliar with the place. If the Imperial Master is in the palace, Yuns must also be in the palace. Then who else will come to save me? There is none left. A figure suddenly flashed in my mind, but I immediately eliminated it. The killers acted very quickly and didn't waste any time. They raised their knives and were ready to chop. I was so scared that I shouted, "Get out!" With a sound of, dang, the sword did not fall on me, but was blocked by someone's sword. Many people came to the alley, some looked like guards, some looked like officers and soldiers, and one person was playing with silver string in his hand and smiling evilly. If it's not someone you should touch, just don't touch it. The silver thread flashed, and the heads of several killers fell to the ground. I was so frightened by this scene that I collapsed to the ground with blood flowing all over the floor. I haven't seen such a scene for a long time. It's Chi Wanshan. I watched him walking towards me covered in blood, his eyes staring at me. The girl's shout just now was a bit full of anger. I said, "Stop talking, I'll just take it as a compliment and give me a hand." When I realized it, I was now Chen, and I didn't know him at all. Chi Wanshan and I were both stunned, but the little boy next to us reacted first and helped me up. "Little boy, big sister is injured, please call the Imperial doctor." Imperial physician. I looked at the little boy in shock. Could he be the young Emperor of Bayan? Chi Wanshan was helpless. "Your Majesty, you told me not to mention these things outside, in front of outsiders. Now that this girl knows the identity of the holy sage, what should she do?" As she spoke, the smile on Chi Wanshan's face deepened, with a hint of teasing. The little boy smiled and said, "I know, I want to kill her." I was startled, and my feet involuntarily took 2 steps back. Chi Wanshan stopped my movement. "Girl, don't panic." Then he turned to look at the little boy. "Your Majesty, what should you call yourself?" The little boy curled his lips. I was wrong. Chi Wanshan seemed to be in a good mood. He smiled and said, "The girl is His Majesty's savior, but since she knows His Majesty's identity, she will leave it to His Majesty's disposal." As he said that, he pushed me to the ground and forced me to kneel. Chi Wanshan suddenly came to my ear and said softly, "Don't look at me with those eyes of yours. You remind me of an old friend. I don't really want you to die yet, but you have to be good." The little boy said, "Okay, then leave it to me." I looked at them indifferently and listened to their conversation, as if they were treating me as a learning tool. I was the one who was punished if I was wrong, and I was the one who was rewarded if I was right. But I didn't dare to struggle. Chi Wanshan was a sinister person, which I could tell from working with him before. I put my hope in the little boy, hoping that he could save my life. Isn't it good for the 5 of us to be together? Chapter 89. The defense is broken. The little boy said, "Then let's kill this big sister. There is blood on her body and she is not pretty at all." Something seemed to have broken through. Well, my heart is broken. This fucking world. I forced a smile and said, "Who do you think is the most beautiful, Your Majesty?" The little boy said, "Of course she is my sister." I still wanted to struggle, trying to make him have a better impression of me, but Chi Wanshan held me down. "Don't move, otherwise Dookie can't guarantee that this silver thread won't cut your neck instantly." I stopped moving, my words stuck in my throat. I really wanted to know what kind of weapon Chi Wanshan was using before, but now I don't want to know, not at all. Who knows how much I wanted to vomit when the corpses of the killers fell apart in front of me, physically. I thought before that the smile on Chi Wanshan's face was just fake, and that he was described as dark and scheming. The little boy in front of him who was taught by him must not be much better. I cursed in my heart for a long time before facing the reality. Chi Wanshan handed me over to the guard with the sword. It was his sword that blocked the knives of the killers just now. But it was obvious that Chi Wanshan's own bodyguard was not that easy to talk to either. The little boy's eyes suddenly brightened again and he said, "But this big sister just hugged me and ran away. I don't want to kill her anymore." Chi Wanshan, is Your Majesty doing it for her life-saving grace? Little boy, no, she runs so fast, faster than all the maids in the palace. Hi. Chi Wan's smile deepened. Then, Your Majesty, please take this girl away. I blurted out, "Wait a minute." The 2 of them looked at me, maybe because they didn't expect me to dare to speak. I said, "The grassroots people belong to the Imperial Preceptor's residence. I hope that Your Majesty and the Prince will allow the grassroots people to return to the residence and report to the Imperial Preceptor." Little boy, Gishifu. Maybe it was the string of red string bells on my hand that attracted their attention. Chi Wanshan pinched my chin and forced me to look at him. Why didn't the girl say anything just now? I wanted to speak out, but I found that he was actually grabbing my throat. I looked at him in disbelief. Chi Wan frowned deeply and cursed secretly, "Damn it." Then she left me aside. The maids in the Imperial Master's residence all wear veils, and they're followed by guards when they go out. I have never seen you come out alone like this. No wonder the maid asked me if I wanted to bring a bodyguard when I went out just now. It turned out to be this reason. Chi Wan brushed her sleeves deeply. "That's all, the Imperial Master is in the palace. If you have anything to do, let's talk about it back to the palace. Take it away." I shook off the guard's hand. I have feet and can walk on my own. The bell rang with my steps. When I looked at Chi Wanshan, I smiled at him. Let's see who can outplay who. The palace in Bayan is different from the palace in Nanyang. Most of Nanyang has red walls and black tiles, while Bayan is full of white jade, still white jade. There is also a white jade statue in front of the main palace, which looks like a fairy, also wearing a veil and holding a bell in his hand. Is it possible that the sculpture is related to the Imperial Prefecture? Look down, don't look. From the moment she entered the palace, Qi Wanshan's eyes seemed eager to stick to me. She told me not to walk with long strides, not to wear my hair, and even had to control whether to step with the left foot or the right foot first. I shouldn't have been provocative, really. This man holds a grudge. I lowered my head silently, thinking that this time there would be no trouble for me. The little emperor in front suddenly called out, "Master, Imperial Master." I looked up again and saw Jiang Yuchen standing next to the sculpture, wondering what he was thinking. His blue clothes are still very obvious at night. A big hand pushed my head down. Then the people around him saluted and greeted Jiang Yuchen. Qi Wanshan said, "Why is the Imperial Master here?" Jiang Yuchen said, "I heard from the Chamberlain that His Majesty is missing. Now it seems that His Majesty has been found safely." The little emperor's mood was reflected on his face, and it was easy to see that he actually didn't like Jiang Yuchen very much. "Thank you, Master Imperial Master, for your concern. I'm fine. Please step aside first." When Jiang Yuchen saw this, he wanted to turn around and leave. He can't see me. Yun's was not beside him either. I bit my lip and inadvertently moved the bell on my hand. Good news, he heard it. Qi Wanshan also heard the bad news. Qi Wanshan looked at me and smiled, as if he knew everything and everything was under his control. Jiang Yuchen paused. "Well." Qi Wanshan spoke before me. "Your Majesty encountered a killer just now, thanks to the maid in the Imperial Preceptor's residence who saved him. Your Majesty said that this maid was so close that he brought her into the palace without the Imperial Preceptor's permission. Master, shouldn't be angry, right?" Jiang Yuchen was silent for a while. I wanted to speak, but Qi Wanshan was playing with the silver thread on his hand in front of me. It was obvious that if I spoke, my head would fall to the ground the next moment. Options appear. Open your mouth and tell Jiang Yuchen. Shut up and don't talk. I was very unconvinced and chose the second one. People have to bow their heads under the roof. I can still tell the difference between dying now or not knowing when. Jiang Yuchen said, "Nothing, Your Majesty likes it, so just take it away." After saying that, he turned around and left. The one who left was not Jiang Yuchen, but the Imperial Master who was able to protect my safety, was gentle, kind, and easy to talk to. I glared at Qi Wanshan where no one else could see him. "Cut your thread someday." The little emperor returned to his bedroom, but he was very unhappy. "Qi Wanshan, what did Your Majesty promise me before?" The little emperor was unhappy. "You can't go out at will. I have to tell you when I leave the palace and bring guards with me." Qi Wanshan, "Your Majesty knows why he still commits the crime. There are many people who want to kill Your Majesty. If the Chamberlain had not discovered that Your Majesty was missing in time today, I am afraid that 10 girls would not have been able to save Your Majesty. Me, thank you, Mr. Chamberlain." Little Emperor, "But those guards are boring, can't talk, and say they can't go here or that. You are the same, you are very busy, and you never take me out." Qi Wanshan hugged him and coaxed him. "Your Majesty, if you don't cry, I will take you out of the palace to play in a few days. However, I will be punished for what happened today." The little emperor said with red eyes, "What punishment?" "Punish me." Qi Wan smiled deeply and said, "Of course not. The ones who are punished are naturally the chambermaids and maids, who can make these servants look down on me." I was agitated, and the maid kneeling next to me was also trembling. After hearing this, she cried and begged for mercy, and the whole palace was filled with wailing. I looked at the little emperor. He shouldn't be so cruel. Unexpectedly, the little emperor just frowned, covered his ears, and said impatiently, "It's noisy, then punish them." Qi Wanshan, "I told Your Majesty, how shall I be punished?" Little emperor, "Kill." Before I could react, the system in my brain started to sound an alarm again. "Please host, stop the Bayan emperor from killing." Close hollow corner bracket. There were also cries and pleas for mercy coming and going all around. What should I do? I didn't know what I was going to do. I only knew that I knelt down uncontrollably, cut out and said, "Please show mercy to Your Majesty." The whole room was quiet, except for some sobbing, and I felt everyone's eyes on me. Qi Wanshan sneered, "Young lady, she was still in hell just now, why do you want to take a trip now?" I calmed down and said, "It's late tonight. If the bleeding is serious, it may affect Your Majesty's sleep tonight. It's better to deal with it tomorrow. Isn't it good for the 5 of us to be together? Chapter 90. I will take you into the palace." Qi Wanshan, "What do you think, Your Majesty?" The little emperor was heartless. After hearing what I said, he changed his mind again. "Then we'll talk about it tomorrow." I breathed a sigh of relief. Sure enough, the child was out-tempered and easy to talk to. Little emperor, everyone, go out. Seeing the maids and maids filing out, I thought it was time to go out. When I was about to stand up, the little emperor pointed at me. "Big sister, stay here." I looked up at him sharply, thinking he was going to make fun of me, but he had a serious look on his face. Qi Wanshan, "Why did Your Majesty ask her to stay?" The little emperor, "I have heard that for children outside, their parents will tell them stories before going to bed. The maids and sisters always tell them in a stumbling manner, which is not pleasant at all." Qi Wanshan pinched his face and said with a smile, "But what if she doesn't know how to tell stories?" The little emperor was full of disgust. "I can't tell stories, and I'm not pretty. I'll just kill him." I was dissed about my appearance. Again, I hate rude kids. Qi Wanshan asked the servants to take the little emperor down to take a bath, and he and I were the only ones left in the room. Qi Wanshan kept looking at me. I shrank my head and heard him say, "Tsk, I thought the girl looked like an old friend at first, but now I realize that she doesn't look like her at all." I ignored him and he just figured it out on his own. "Qi Wanshan, what's your name, girl?" I said, "Chen Anping." He didn't say anything, so I said again, "Peaceful," and the bird chooses the screen. Qi Wanshan smiled gently, exactly like the first time I saw him. "Qi Wanshan, Does the girl have a sister? I said, no, I am alone, my family is in decline, I encountered a road. The Imperial Master, I was able to take him in. Qi Wanshan, Master National Preceptor, is still as charitable as ever. There is nothing wrong with me. I will come to see the girl in person tomorrow. I was silent. Qi Wanshan, girl, aren't you curious about what's going on? I said, to be favored by the prince, you will either be rich and prosperous, or you will die. Qi Wanshan was stunned for a moment. She probably didn't expect me to say this. You are very smart as that old friend of mine. I looked directly into his eyes. For a moment, I thought he recognized me, but considering that my relationship with him was not deep at all, how could he recognize me from this side? I temporarily let go of my worries and said, the world is like this. If ordinary people are not smarter, they will be eaten up to the dregs. Qi Wanshan still had the same smile on his face, but I knew he was scheming, maybe thinking about my value. Qi Wanshan, let the palace maid take you to freshen up. The Holy Emperor won't like the smell of this girl. I silently rolled my eyes, bowed casually and went out with the palace maid. Sure enough, what was waiting for me was not a large warm bath, but a simple small bucket. I can no longer take this blood-stained cloth. Ask me why I am a commoner. Because the system backpack only contains simple cloths that can be worn. The Imperial Preceptor's office gave me a beautiful dress, but I couldn't bear to wear it. I thought that the task would definitely not be easy. The cumbersome skirt restricted my movements. Fortunately, I wore simple clothes. What Qi Wanshan asked the palace maid to send was a set of simple palace maid clothes, which looked better than my rough cloth clothes. It looks like that after putting it on. Returning to the little emperor's bedroom, as soon as he entered the door, he heard a plaintive cry, why is the elder sister so slow? Could it be that she was killed? You stinky kid, can't you just hope for a little bit more from me? I walked in with a smile, and upon seeing me, the little emperor couldn't wait to tell me a story. You have to tell me something I don't know, and you have to tell it in a nice way. I nodded and let him lie down. All the maids and maids who were serving him were kicked out by him, and I was the only one left. I turned my head for a while and then started to talk. There is a woman in Nanyang who came from nowhere, but she was as beautiful as a flower, and even the generals were moved by her. The little emperor, this general is really confused. He is attracted by beauty. He is not a good thing after all. Kill him. Me. I suspect you are scolding me. I smiled and said, Your Majesty, you are so young, don't talk about beating or killing. Little Emperor, but the regent said that if I were merciful, no one in the world would dare to listen to me. Me, but Your Majesty must also distinguish between good people and bad people. Of course, bad people can be killed, but good people cannot. Little Emperor, is the eldest sister a good person? Me, of course I am. Little Emperor, sure enough, what is written in the notebook is correct. Me, what? Little Emperor, bad people always like to say that they're good people. I was very angry. How can Your Majesty see that I am a bad person? I am so kind, but I still hug you and run away. Will I be a bad person? Little Emperor, the script says that ugly people are bad people and good-looking people are good people. Me, slander. Little Emperor, if my eldest sister is more beautiful, I will take you into the harem and sleep with me. Me, then forget it, just be ugly, that's fine. I said, Your Majesty, if you continue talking, I will stop talking. After hearing this, the little Emperor lay down obediently again. Very good, so I continued. In addition to her first-class beauty, this woman also has good skills. She can do anything. Things on paper can be made into exquisite things in her hands. Even the Emperor of Nanyang, they all look at her differently. Little Emperor, stupid. There's no way to tell this story. Hey, I finally know why the maids can't tell stories. Seeing that I was silent, the little Emperor continued to ask, then can she make a telescopic sword? I didn't react. What? The little Emperor made two gestures with his hands. It's the kind that can be pulled out with a swish, and can be pulled back with a swish. I sighed secretly, as Yuanyi's telescopic sword spread to Bayan. How did Your Majesty know about this thing? The little Emperor, the guards around the region told me that they're from Nanyang, and I want them too. If I had known earlier, I would have seen what Yuanyi did that day, and brought him here to coax this little ancestor. The little Emperor, if she can do it, then I will bring her into the palace and do it every day. I stumbled, and I was actually glad that I couldn't do it. Isn't it good for the five of us to be together? Chapter 91. She's not dead. Your Majesty, do you still hear this story? Little Emperor, I won't listen. Although what you say is stupid, I am really sleepy. You can go out. Little Emperor, if eldest sister doesn't go out, do you want to sleep with me? I immediately bowed and said goodbye. It's not a good place to stay for a long time. This child can't stay too long. I feel more annoyed than Qi Wanshan. I bumped into whoever I thought of. When I walked out the door, I turned around and bumped into Qi Wanshan. I felt so sorry for my cocky nose. Qi Wanshan joked, girl throws herself into my arms, don't be in a hurry tonight. I seem to know who the little Emperor's temperament follows. Why haven't I seen him so stinky before? Qi Wanshan, has Your Majesty fallen asleep? I lowered my head and said, yes. Qi Wanshan, it's strange, I've never been so good in the past. Qi Wanshan looked at me with great interest and said, I don't know what the girl said. It's better to come and listen to it alone. I just said, Your Majesty, the Holy One has rested now. Can ordinary people return to the Imperial Master's mansion? Qi Wanshan stopped me. Girl, please rest in the palace tonight. It's late at night, and the Imperial Preceptor's mansion is far away from the palace, so there's no need to go back and forth. So I ended up living in a strange house for no apparent reason. I was still a little dazed as I lay in bed. Could it be that Qi Wanshan had to wait until the next day to start torturing me? I patted the system in my mind. In the past, if I completed the task line, it would pop up immediately. Why was there no movement this time? Could it be that the task was not completed? Failed. Quote. Congratulations to the host for completing tonight's storyline. The gift package has been distributed. Remember to check it out. Close hollow corner bracket. Me, didn't you say that the system has been upgraded? Why does it feel stupider than the previous system? I opened my backpack and took a look. Inside was a book, a collection of children's stories. Alarm, an increase in the host's anger level has been detected. Close hollow corner bracket. If the system had not been materialized, I would have smashed it with this children's story book. Tell me, what kind of surprise gift package is this? Open hollow corner bracket, he backquote. I took a breath. I couldn't get angry. I could only get angry at myself. Thinking on the bright side, I won't have to think too hard when telling stories to the little emperor in the future. I don't know how I fell asleep. I was frightened and angry all night. I'm afraid I fainted because of my anger. When I woke up, I found that Kai Chen was not here. I am afraid that I had brought my previous routine in Nanyang with me. As soon as I got up, someone hurriedly came over from outside. Miss Chen, your servant has come in first. Before I could say anything, a maid walked into the room and found me sitting by the bed. She was startled. Girl, you get up really early. I was a little tired and asked her, what can I do? The palace maid thought of her own affairs and immediately said, girl, the Holy Father has urgently called for you to come over. The little emperor called me. What's good? Start preparing to torture people early in the morning. The palace maid ignored me and went to her own business to wash me up, put on my palace clothes, and then hurriedly took me to the little emperor's bedroom. It wasn't until I saw Qi Wanshan that I cheered up. The king of hell was here, so I had to cheer up a little. I saluted. Your Majesty, please greet me. The little emperor wanted to speak, but was stopped by Qi Wanshan. Yesterday I wanted to ask, the ceremony the girl performed was the ceremony for the Saint in Nanyang. Is it possible that the girl celebrated the ceremony in Nanyang? I secretly sighed, forgetting that this is Beiyin. Beiyin and Nanyang have different ways of saluting, but I habitually kept saluting like this. I was flustered in my heart, but I didn't show it on my face. Yes, it's my parents who wanted the common people to be drafted in the palace, so they invited a special palace nun to teach the common people the etiquette. The common people thought that the etiquette of meeting a saint was there all the same, that's why they salute like this. My head was covered with sweat. I recalled what I just said and found that there was nothing wrong. I breathed a sigh of relief. Sure enough, I was the genius who adapts to circumstances. After Qi Wanshan listened, he laughed out loud. It should be a mockery, because he said, the draft for the palace. Ling Hongyuan's harem is empty. There has been no draft since he came to power. If the girl waits hard, I'm afraid he will become an old girl. Not necessarily a choice. I agree. The little emperor asked, why didn't the emperor of Nanyang choose a draft? Qi Wanshan, probably not. Ling Hongyuan, who was far away in Nanyang Palace, sneezed. The little emperor added, but the backyard of the regent's mansion is empty. Could it be that the regent is also not good at it? Qi Wanshan. I burst into laughter. Qi Wanshan, your Majesty, please memorize one more book about the world today. The little emperor wanted to resist. Qi Wan's eyes stopped her. Just say one more thing, 3 books. It must be said that Qi Wanshan was very much like a strict father. No wonder the little emperor did not dare to act like a monster in his hands. I asked the main point of this morning. I wonder why the prince called the common people here this morning. Qi Wanshan seemed to have just remembered who I am, and said, Miss, please accompany His Majesty today. I went to the court in Beiyin again for no apparent reason. The little emperor is young and will be accompanied by maids when he goes to court. Yes, the maid today is me. The group of maids and chambermaids last night had already been punished and were not executed. They were all driven to other palaces to do their work. The new batch of palace maids and chambermaids are not to the little emperor's liking. Either this one is too fat, or that one is too thin, etc. So he summoned me out of desperation. Little emperor, although the eldest sister is not what I like, she is very interesting and can relieve boredom. Well, this is the first time the little emperor has praised me seriously. It's just that I have no way of knowing what Qi Wanshan is thinking. He knew that I was from Nanyang and considered a person of unknown origin, so why did he let me go to this court? Could it be that he is actually really stupid? The fierce quarrel in the court interrupted my thoughts. There was a curtain in front of the little emperor's eyes, and I could only vaguely see several courtiers arguing with red faces. While the emperor of Nanyang is separated from General Nanyang, why don't we take this opportunity to attack Nanyang? Who is separated from whom? Ling Hongyuan and Qin Che. I pricked up my ears and continued to listen. How does the general know if Nanyang is just putting on a show for us to watch? Ever since Seshi Chen made some strange things, Nanyang is no longer the same Nanyang it used to be. We don't even know the depth of our troops and food. According to my opinion, we still have to stand still and be quiet. Wait and observe. I was surprised. I didn't expect that Beiyin had long wanted to attack Nanyang. Once the world was divided into 2 countries, I thought that the 2 countries would balance each other, but I didn't expect that one side would suppress it. So I broke the scene, and now the 2 countries should be indistinguishable. The general didn't care at all. Nanyang's Chen Seshi is dead, and we have obtained farm machines and textile looms. Nanyang is not afraid at all. Do not. A sound interrupted the general's words. Qi Wanshan sat on the right side of the main seat with a careless smile on her face. She's not dead. There was a commotion in the court. Who is not dead? My palms broke into a cold sweat, and my heart was pounding. Qi Wanshan, Nanyang Seshi Chen is not dead. I looked at him with my pupils wide open, the fear in my heart being magnified to no end. Qi Wanshan happened to look at me as well, smiling wantonly. Isn't it good for the five of us to be together? Chapter 92. I am indeed very happy. He seemed to have seen through my disguise and I had nowhere to hide, but he just looked away lightly, as if nothing happened. How come? He can't possibly know that I am Chen Yuji, nor can he recognize me with a simple Nanyang face-to-face ceremony. I pursed my lips. If you had a mirror, you could see that my face was pale. Anyone with a delicate heart would definitely notice that something was wrong with me. But luckily there was a curtain in front of me, blocking the view of the people below. All the courtiers were talking about it. Then Seshi Chen was stabbed to death by General Nanyang's sword in full view of everyone. How can he still be alive? Qi Wanshan raised her hand, and the hall fell silent for an instant. I was a little nervous. Could it be that Qi Wanshan asked me to come here just to expose my identity in public? Qi Wanshan said, the secret agent who is alone in Nanyang sent a letter. It says that Chen Seshi is currently in the Nanyang palace. He is still breathing. He is suspended with medicine by the Nanyang emperor. It is said that he is sending people to find the magic medicine. Even now, I'm still worried. Ling Hongyuan doesn't even know that there are spies from other countries around him. An old minister over there said, is it possible that General Nanyang left the capital in anger because he was separated from Emperor Nanyang some time ago, just to find medicinal materials? Many agreed. I can only say that I am still alive here. What does it mean that Chen Yuji, over there, is still breathing a sigh of relief? Ling Hongyuan is using me to trick others. Something suddenly occurred to me and I knocked on the system in my mind. Is this the reason for the missing soul fragments you mentioned? Stop pretending to be dead and speak up. The host soul remains on the original body, and the system does not dare to rashly withdraw it. Okay, that's true. I was shaking with rage. Who said it would be okay to withdraw from the world at that time? Who is it? Open hollow corner bracket, asterisk, I backquote asterisk. I calmed down and asked, if my soul remains, I will not be able to return to the original world. At that time, I will have to go to Nanyang to bring my remaining soul back. Yes. I almost lost my temper and asked again, does Ling Gongyu and Qin Che still need a strategy? Unnecessary. Close hollow corner bracket. Fortunately, okay, I finally feel a little relieved. As long as I can sneak into Nanyang Palace and find my original body, I can go back. I gritted my teeth but kept smiling because Qi Wanshan was looking at me. He asked the chamberlain beside him to ask me why my face looked so bad. I replied, because when I thought about someone not dying neatly, I was so frightened that I couldn't breathe and was in pain. After Qi Wan knew my reply, she looked at me with a complicated expression. The people in the court were still arguing, saying that Seshi Chen was very lucky, and that Seshi Chen was a rare talent that could only be seen in a century. It would be great if he could be used by Beiyin. The words below were so intense that the little emperor, who had been sitting silently next to him, was a little impatient and said, Sister, this Chen Seshi is the peerless beauty you talked about last night, right? I said, yes. The little emperor looked regretful. It's a pity that she only has one breath left. If she is still alive, I will let the general go all over Nanyang, snatch the Chen Kongxi and make a telescopic sword for me. Me. Don't cue, don't think, don't disturb. Sure enough, Qi Wanshan didn't know my true identity, and he didn't continue to talk about it until the next court. As for whether to attack Nanyang, it has been decided. Following the little emperor back to the main hall, he was told by the chamberlain that the imperial master had been waiting in the main hall early in the morning and wanted to see the little emperor if he had anything to do. I had a look of surprise on my face. The imperial master was finally going to take me back. Qi Wanshan was also following us, so he could see my expression clearly. Qi Wanshan, why, the girl doesn't like to stay in the palace. I humbly said, Your Majesty, please don't harm the common people. It's not that you don't like it, it's just that this palace is so majestic that it's really not a place where low-income people like me should stay. Qi Wan smiled deeply. It's not you who has the final say. I had no idea what he meant by this, but I soon found out. The imperial master was still wearing a blue robe as always, looking indifferent and distant. Today Yun's was by his side and when he saw us coming, he gave Jiang Yuchen a hint. Jiang Yuchen bowed towards our position and said, May you be safe, Your Majesty. Qi Wan raised her eyebrows deeply and said with a smile, Why is the imperial master free to come to the palace today? Qi Wanshan still wanted to reminisce with him about old times, but Jiang Yuchen went directly to the topic. There was a girl in my residence who disappeared last night. I heard that she had entered the palace, so I came to beg Your Majesty. Although Jiang Yuchen couldn't see me, Yun saw me. I looked at him timidly, wanting to express my pain of missing him. It is easy to lose one's life around Qi Wanshan. Treat whoever wants to be treated. At this time, I had completely forgotten about attacking Qi Wanshan. I just wanted to return to Jiang Yuchen, at least with personal safety guaranteed. I thought Qi Wanshan would not admit it, but unexpectedly he said, The girl in the imperial preceptor's residence is called Chen Anping. Jiang Yuchen, yes. Qi Wanshan stretched out her arms and suddenly took me in her arms. I was so frightened that I didn't know how to react. The bell in my hand also jingled with my movements. Qi Wanshan, does the imperial master know why Chen Anping is alone? Why is there this misconception that I was being teased and falsely accused of seducing someone first? Jiang Yuchen said nothing and had no expression. Qi Wanshan felt a little bored, but continued, Chen Anping said that Xin Yugu thought she was very good, so he stayed. Why does this passage feel so familiar? I was about to retort, but I was restrained by Qi Wanshan. The silver thread was wrapped around my hand, as if to signal me to be obedient. Jiang Yuchen asked over there, is that so? Chen Anping. This was the first time Jiang Yuchen called me by my name, and he was also warning me to speak up. I've never felt so stressed. As expected, the options appeared. Follow Jiang Yuchen. It's too late to admit that I'm happy. Me, such a death option always appears at such a critical time. I chose the second one. I said, Master, I really like the regent. I fell in love with him from the first moment I saw him. The room was silent. Even when Qi Wanshan held me in his arms, I could feel his stagnation. Come and see who hates whom more. Isn't it good for the five of us to be together? Chapter 93. Zhang Gu's eyes. Yun's also looked at me in shock, as if I was some kind of scumbag who abandoned her husband and son. After I finished speaking, Qi Wanshan calmly walked aside, and the arm that restrained me was loosened. Jiang Yuchen still had no expression. Maybe he would also look indifferent if the sky fell. He asked, what about the prince? I looked at Qi Wanshan and heard him sneer and say, Gu is not a shallow person. Okay, I'll let you say whatever I want. Jiang Yuchen, then I'd better take Miss Chen back. Before Qi Wanshan could speak, the little emperor who had been silent beside him suddenly said, no. Big sister is gone, who will tell me stories? Jiang Yuchen, then when your majesty goes to bed at night, call Miss Chen into the palace. I still have some things to do in my house for Miss Chen. Qi Wanshan, what's the matter? Jiang Yuchen, try the medicine. I returned to the imperial master's mansion. As soon as I entered the mansion, I smelled a strong smell of herbs. I didn't dare to speak because I seemed to feel the vague low pressure on Jiang Yuchen. Yuns kept glaring at me from the side, and when Jiang Yuchen wasn't paying attention, he whispered, you're a woman who likes the new and hates the old, you really let down your master. Me, who likes the new and hates the old, who is new and who is old, what nonsense are you talking about? Not to be outdone, Yuns pointed at me and accused, you are the kind of scumbag in the script. Me, please read less of the book, or you will not be able to find your wife in the future. Miss Chen. Jiang Yuchen called me over there, but Yuns had an angry look on his face but could only stare at me fiercely. I walked over and asked, what does the imperial master want Anping to do? Jiang Yuchen handed me the medicine bowl in his hand, drink it. I didn't doubt him, so I immediately drank it with the bowl in hand. Although it was a bit bitter, I got used to it and it felt better after one sip. Jiang Yuchen looked at me and said nothing. After a while, my body had no adverse reactions, so I said, young master, don't worry, there is nothing wrong with this medicine. Jiang Yuchen, girl drank so quickly, aren't you afraid that this is a bowl of poison? I smiled and said, with your character, the imperial preceptor will definitely not do this. Even if it is poison, the imperial preceptor is very skilled in pharmacology and will be able to cure it with an antidote. Jiang Yuchen, unfortunately, this is a bowl of poison. I was stunned, ha. Jiang Yuchen lowered his head and spoke in a very serious tone, this is a bowl of poison specially prepared for girls. Girls have to come to me every day to get a bowl of antidote. Otherwise, their liver and intestines will be severed and their orifices will bleed within 3 hours. I was silent. I brought up the system panel and took a look. Has Jiang Yuchen been replaced by someone else? Is he still my Jiang Yuchen who is as gentle as jade, gentle and considerate to the breeze and bright moon? Drop. If it's fake, the host will be replaced. Close hollow corner bracket. Jiang Yuchen saw that I was silent and asked me first, don't you ask me why? I sighed and said, your majesty the imperial master must have your thoughts. Anping is your majesty the imperial master and will obey you unconditionally. This time it was Jiang Yuchen's turn to be silent. I was thinking about it, and I happened to have a pharmacology encyclopedia in my backpack. At worst, I could prepare an antidote myself. Jiang Yuchen, why do you, Xin Yue the regent? I actually saw a different look on his face and said, it's just a way to get closer to the regent. People always want something. Jiang Yuchen, what do you want? I said, I told the imperial preceptor what I asked for, secret by secret. How about the imperial preceptor also tell me why he gave me such poison? Jiang Yuchen immediately refused, that's all, wait until you are willing to say it. I accompanied Jiang Yuchen to cook the medicine. Although I didn't understand why he gave me the poison, I also realized that each of the 4 people I defeated was not easy. I returned to the wing room that the imperial master had arranged for me. Nothing had changed, except for the addition of a peach blossom that was still in bud. I called a maid to ask, I want to ask sister, who put this peach blossom in my room? The maid said respectfully, last night, when the imperial master came to see the girl, he brought a peach blossom, and it must be this one. Mo, Jiang Yuchen still understands romance. The maid said, I wonder if the girl likes it. There are few peach blossom trees in Beiyan, and there is only one in the imperial master temple in the capital. I think the imperial master treats the girl very well. I blushed, what did sister say? The maid covered her mouth and smiled, then I won't disturb the girl. Me, sister, walk slowly. Jingle. When the maid left, I saw the bell on her hand. The strange thing is that she has a red rope copper bell tied to her hand. What I wear on my hand is a red string and silver bell. Is there any difference between the two? Perhaps the servants used copper bells and the guests used silver bells. Without thinking much, I walked into the room and inserted the peach blossom branch into the porcelain vase, which added a bit of life to this ordinary wing. Taking advantage of my free time, I dug out the encyclopedia of pharmacology, which was quite thick, and searched hard for poisons that could cause a person's liver, intestines, and orifices to bleed within 3 hours. I didn't even look through half of it. I was confused and couldn't find it. The palace sent a chamberlain to take me into the palace and tell stories to the little emperor. I put the book away and followed the chamberlain into the palace. The little emperor had already laid down on the bed and was waiting for me. I asked, what does your majesty want to hear today? I took out the thick children's story collection and prepared to look through it. The little emperor said, sister, you haven't finished telling yesterday's story yet. Me, yesterday. I thought for a while and then remembered the story he complained about yesterday that didn't seem like a story. Little emperor, what else will Chen Seshi do? I said, she can do anything, depending on what His Majesty wants. I am so confident. Little Emperor, then the same surname is Chen, why can't you, big sister, make those gadgets? Who said I can't do it? My shortcoming is that I can't stand the excitement. The little Emperor was surprised and said, if the eldest sister can make that telescopic sword, then I won't let the eldest sister tell me stories. I thought about the feasibility and nodded in agreement. The little Emperor became visibly happy. Sure enough, he is at a fun-loving age, but, Your Majesty, can you fall asleep tonight without listening to a story? The little Emperor, of course. I want to hear stories, but I envy those children who have their mothers telling stories by their bedside. My mother and concubine left early, and I almost forgot what she looked like. Seeing this, I could only comfort, Your Majesty, don't be sad. The little Emperor looked puzzled. I'm not sad, I'm very happy. I was stunned. Your Majesty is very lucky. The little Emperor smiled at me. Yes, I am very glad that my mother and concubine passed away early. I was raised by my father in the name of the Emperor. I am also glad that the Emperor has no other heirs. Otherwise, this throne will belong to others. Quote. Time seemed to have stood still. I looked at the 10-year-old child in front of me, a little shocked and dumbfounded. Me, you, who taught Your Majesty to think so? For a child to have such thoughts, someone must have taught him. Little Emperor, Prince Regent taught me this. Big sister, what's wrong with you? Before I could respond, a voice came from behind, Your Majesty. It's Qi Wanshan. I stood up and saluted. I also learned some etiquette in the mansion, so I thought I would be right. Qi Wanshan, Your Majesty, it's time to go to bed. The little Emperor was very obedient and lay down obediently. He only gave me a look to remind me to remember the telescopic sword I promised him. I smiled and agreed. I followed Qi Wanshan out and walked some distance. Qi Wanshan sent the servants away and said, What did the Holy One say to you? I opened my mouth, trying to say something, but no sound came out. Options appear. The Holy One didn't say anything. Tell the truth. I looked at the two options and chose the first one. I said that the Holy One said nothing. Such secrets in the palace must not be known to outsiders like me. However, I saw Qi Wanshan's smile getting thicker and thicker, which made me take 2 steps back in fear. Qi Wanshan grabbed my neck violently and pushed me against the wall next to me, my breathing getting faster and faster. Girl, lying is not a good thing. He heard us, or rather, he was just spying on us. I struggled to say, Your Majesty, you can't kill me. I am the national preceptor. I didn't say everything, and I couldn't breathe. His vision began to blur and his mind began to become confused. He only heard Qi Wanshan say, his people can be killed without fail. Wrong selection, close hollow corner bracket. Amidst the alarm sound in his head, Qi Wanshan said, it's really boring. I'm out of breath now. Come here, take him down, Zhang Gu's eyes. Opening my eyes, I saw the familiar empty space again. After a few months, I actually came back. I opened my mouth and found that my throat still felt a little suffocated. Should I be glad that Qi Wanshan strangled me to death with his hands instead of cutting me with his silver wire? The feeling of having one's throat cut must be even more uncomfortable. Prepare to conduct a second traceback for the host. Okay, the second target to kill me after Qin Che. Qi Wanshan, I have recorded this grudge. Backtracking successful, close hollow corner bracket. The host has 3 remaining opportunities to look back. The delivery is being carried out for the host. The delivery was successful. Close hollow corner bracket. What caught my eye was Qi Wanshan's face, and I heard him ask, What did the Holy One say to you? I pursed my lips and said nothing. Options appear. The Holy One didn't say anything. Tell the truth. I readily chose the second one. I told the truth, everything the little Emperor told me. I saw Qi Wanshan's face full of joking. Don't you find it appalling, girl? I said, indeed, it's shocking, but the little Emperor is actually pure at heart. There must be a villain around him who said something to make him so. Qi Wanshan, I'm really sorry, that villain is just a loner. I know, I'm talking about you. Qi Wanshan took out the silver thread and circled it around my neck. A villain. The girl's neck is very slender. It's better not to leave any unsightly marks on it. A perfectly threatening tone. I said, Your Majesty is young, so these things may affect his mind. Qi Wanshan, you are very brave. The silver thread slowly tightened, but I still said without changing my expression, Your Majesty, you can't do this. Qi Wanshan let go of me. I rubbed my neck. Fortunately, there was no bleeding. Qi Wanshan, why did you risk being killed to refute Gu? I said, I just think that the prince must be a kind person, and he will never stand by and watch His Majesty turn into such a cold-blooded person. Kind. Qi Wan smiled deeply. This is the biggest joke Gu has ever heard. Gu is the kind of cold-blooded person, why can't we watch him become like this? He has someone to teach him, but who will teach him when he is an orphan? Drop. Unlock the story fragments of Qi Wanshan. Close hollow corner bracket. Later, Qi Wanshan waved her sleeves and left, sending someone to take me back to the Imperial Preceptor's mansion. But Jiang Yuchen was not asleep yet, standing in front of the pavilion, not knowing what he was doing. I called him, Master Imperial Master. It's so late, why are you still awake? Jiang Yuchen pointed to the medicine bowl on the stone table and said, Come and give the antidote to the girl. I understood, so I took the medicine bowl and drank it. I didn't know if drinking 2 large bowls of medicine a day was poisonous or not, and whether there would be any side effects. After I finished drinking, Jiang Yuchen handed me a candied fruit. I was very surprised. Candied fruits. How come the Imperial Master has candied fruits? You know, he doesn't like eating candied fruits after drinking medicine. Tonight, both medicine and preserves were delivered, which made me very vigilant. Could there be another trap waiting for me? I carefully took the candied fruit, and Jiang Yuchen said, I remembered that you were afraid of hardship, so I brought it with me. I held the candied fruit in my mouth and slurred my words. Your Majesty, you don't have to be like this. Just ask your servants or Yun's guards to come next time. Your Majesty is busy with affairs. I'm afraid it will delay your important events. No delay. He spoke so quietly that I didn't hear him clearly. What? Jiang Yuchen, how is the moonlight tonight? I looked at the sky. The night sky was full of dark clouds, and I couldn't see the shadow of the moon at all. But I still said, the moon is very round, very bright, and very beautiful. Your Majesty, the Imperial Master must detoxify quickly and take a look at the moonlight. After I finished speaking, Jiang Yuchen smiled. It's the kind of smile that comes from the heart. If it were matched with those eyes, I'm afraid it would be nothing more than that. He seemed to have seen through my white lie, but he still didn't expose it. Girl, go to bed early. Jiang Yuchen is really strange tonight, or in other words, Jiang Yuchen is very strange today. After washing myself, I lay on the bed, opened the system panel, and read the memory fragment. Drop. The virtual story scene has been entered for the host. Close hollow corner bracket. What caught his eye was the dark dungeon. I opened the system panel again and checked. It was Qi Wanshan's memory fragment. How could he, who seemed so pampered, actually be living in a dungeon? My lord, the person you want is over here. A man with exquisite clothes and a heavy crown came to the dungeon. This costume was very similar to the official uniform of the regent. From the words of the servant next to him, he was probably the previous regent. He has a face with Chinese characters, a serious face, no anger and self-power, and a low-pressure aura about him. This person is really not simple. As he walked, he came to a dungeon. In that dungeon was a child, as big as the little emperor, or smaller. He was lying on the ground with blood everywhere. 5 of us to be together. Chapter 94 Annexation of Nanyang. Seeing the regent's unwavering gaze, the servant said attentively, Your Majesty, this is the child who survived among the beasts. Regent, still alive. Servant, go back to your lord, he is still alive. This child has a long life. The regent pointed at the iron door in front of him and said, Open it. Soon, a servant opened the iron door for him. The child lying on the ground raised his head when he heard the movement. The regent stood in front of him and looked at him for a while. The servants thought that the child did not bow, which angered the regent. Get up quickly. This is the regent of the dynasty, don't look at it with your eyes. After the servant finished speaking, he was immediately kicked aside by the prince regent. Who are you? You dare to say such a thing to someone you like? The servant reacted and immediately begged for mercy. The regent ignored him and just gently lifted the child up. Tell the imperial doctor to come for diagnosis and treatment. Yes, yes, yes. The child's eyes were full of vigilance. One of his feet was broken and he couldn't stand firmly. One of his hands was drooped, but his whole body was like a small animal, ready to bite anyone. The regent was very patient and told him that he was not a bad person and would not hurt him. He also asked him if he would like to go with him and live a life of rich food and clothing. Child, what is fine clothes and good food? Regent, that means there will be someone to help you with food, clothing, housing and transportation. Child, then I do. Regent, in that case, I will be your father from now on. Child, father. The regent was very happy and walked out of the dungeon with the child in his arms. The autumn wind was blowing late, it was late autumn, and the child also had a name, Qi Wanshan. I thought that Xiao Qi would be at least a little better off in the hands of the regent, but I didn't expect that except for food, clothing, and shelter, nothing else had changed. I used to fight with wild animals, now I fight with humans. Whichever way is the cruelest, just learn it. In the words of the old regent, as long as you are cruel enough, no one will dare to look down on you. Do you know how to become the regent? After just finishing fighting with a few people, Qi Wanshan, whose arm was still bleeding, had not dissipated the killing intent in his eyes. He could only rely on his reason and said, Listen to your father's teachings. Old regent, if you kill the regent, you can become the regent. Drop. Fragment reading completed. Close hollow corner bracket. I woke up leisurely and was told by my servant that someone from the palace was here. I looked at the time and it was almost noon. I didn't expect that I had slept for so long. I asked, did the palace say anything? The maid said, it seems like the Holy One is clamoring for a girl. The chamberlain was so anxious that he took me into the palace before I could say a word to Jiang Yuchen. He didn't know if this would offend Jiang Yuchen. After all, he still had my antidote today. Before entering the inner hall, I heard the little emperor's voice. Why aren't you here, eldest sister? Are you slow? Seeing that he seemed to be punishing someone, I immediately walked in and said, Your Majesty, what's wrong with you? Why are you so angry with this servant? I gave him a look and told the chamberlain to run away quickly, lest the little emperor would be out of sight and out of mind. The little emperor was very happy when he saw it was me. I found that Qi Wanshan was not here. I thought it was just the little emperor calling me. The little emperor took my hand and leaned forward. Follow me, I will take you to see something good. I specifically told my servants that no one could enter the inner hall, so the little emperor led me through the window. Your Majesty, are we going to sneak out of the palace? Otherwise, why should we be cautious and sneaky in the palace? Little emperor, just follow me. The architect of Beiyin Palace really loved white jade steps, white jade columns, and anything made of white jade. Accompanying the sound of the bell in my hand is a different kind of bell hanging on the white jade eaves. I didn't pay much attention when I entered the palace the first 2 times, but now I discovered that many palaces have bells hanging on them. So much so that the sound of bells as I walked on the road was not too sudden. The little emperor was also experienced, and he didn't even meet a single guard or maid on the way. I walked around and walked to a white jade corridor. Next to the corridor was a flower pond and a pool. It was very beautiful, a bit like the Imperial Garden in Nanyang. Your Majesty, where is this? The Imperial Garden of Beiyin. Well, it's true. Your Majesty wants to come to the Royal Garden, why do you have to hide? You'll find out later. Out of curiosity, I followed the little emperor for a while. I didn't expect that there was such a large pool in Beiyin Palace. There was a sound not far away. We hid behind the tree, only half of our heads peeking out. Under a willow tree, handsome men and pretty women are sparring with each other. You sword and I sword, back and forth, who looked at each other without saying a word. It's so beautiful. Apart from, I asked you to work hard, but you don't have the strength. With a clang, the man's sword was knocked off. But the man was not angry, he just smiled and said, the eldest princess's swordsmanship has improved again. That's right, the woman is the eldest princess Song Shi, and the man is the regent Qi Wunshen. To be honest, I have never seen such a gentle smile on Qi Wunshen's face. Usually he smiles sinisterly or sneers, and smiles superficially but not at all. Now it's obvious that he is in a good mood. My desire for gossip arose spontaneously. The little emperor saw that I was fascinated and said proudly, my sister is pretty, isn't she? It is obvious that Song Shi is indeed beautiful, and it is the kind of beauty that is wanton and flamboyant. I nodded in agreement. Then he suddenly remembered, since we are watching the eldest princess and regent, why are we still hiding like this? Just watch them openly and openly. Little emperor, I want to tell you that the regent is not something you can imagine. His heart is only for my sister, and he will not like you. Needless to say, you have already seen it. But, so what, the eldest princess doesn't like the regent. The little emperor was even more proud. That's right, my sister is worthy of the best person in the world. I looked at him suspiciously. As far as I know, the little emperor and Song Shi are half-mother. Now it seems that the two people have a good relationship. Suddenly a gust of cool wind blew, and a sword stabbed straight at us. I reacted first, pulled the little emperor over, rolled to the side, and barely managed to dodge the sword. Who? Sister, it's me. Song Nanshao, why are you here? It was a mistake. Song Shi just felt someone around him. He thought it was some kind of killer or assassin. Taking advantage of the silence, he prepared to kill that person with a sword. Unexpectedly, I dodged him. Song Shi hated the iron. What are you doing here? If you haven't shown up yet, does your majesty want to hear something? The little emperor didn't dare to speak, he just kept hiding behind me. I'm afraid it's not Song Shi that he's afraid of, but the dark-faced Qi Wunshen. Qi Wunshen, didn't his majesty just stay in the palace to review his books? Why did he sneak out again? He even brought Miss Chen with him. When he talked about Miss Chen, he looked at me with interest. Okay, no wonder you have to be sneaky, it turns out you were ordered not to come out. Good boy, you dare to trick me. I was about to confess the little emperor, but I saw him looking at me with tears in his eyes. After struggling for a while, I still couldn't make up my mind. Forget it, I will be punished anyway whether I confess or not, so I might as well take it myself. I bowed and said, Eldest princess, your majesty, it was the common people who encouraged your majesty to come out. I heard that the birds were singing and the flowers were fragrant in Beiyin Imperial Garden, so I wanted to come and have a look. But I didn't expect that your majesty, the prince and the princess would be here, disturbing the noble lord. It's the fault of the common people. Please punish me, the prince and the princess. I knelt down very neatly, insisting that as long as I admitted my mistake quickly, I would not be punished severely. After I finished speaking, there was no sound around me. I was thinking that I didn't say anything wrong just now, so why was it all silent? It was Song Shi who spoke first. What did you say your last name was? I blinked. There seemed to be no connection between my last name and what I just said. But I still answered truthfully. Princess Hui, her surname is Chen and her name is Anping. Miss Chen, raise your head. Following her instructions, I raised my head and looked at Song Shi. She is still the same person, but I have already changed my skin. Song Shi frowned and said, you just dodged my sword. She was wondering why I, a commoner, could react so quickly. It's a joke. I survived in the hands of Ling Hongyuan and Qin Che. It was easy to dodge open and hidden attacks. I still have a sense of crisis, but I can't say that. I said, the grassroots people fled with their relatives before and encountered many robbers and bandits, so they were naturally wary of swords and swords. Song Shi continued to look at me. Is that so? Miss Chen has a sister. I was stunned. Why did everyone ask like this? No, there's only Cao Min, an only daughter in the family. Now only Cao Min is left. Sure enough, Song Shi showed a little pity on his face. Get up, the ground is cold, stop kneeling. I and the regent know his majesty's temper. You don't have to cover him up. The little emperor stayed behind me obediently. After hearing this, he ran to Song Shi aggrievedly. Sister, I really don't want to read now Shizi's book. Qi Wunshen had been silent, and now he spoke sharply. Your majesty, what did I tell you before? The little emperor had a backer and hid behind Song Shi, revealing only a pair of big tearful eyes. Sister, I really don't want to see it. If my sister and the regent can come out to play together, why can't I? Song Shi comforted him. Okay, your majesty, can you, sister, play with your majesty? The little emperor is very happy. You know his favorite is his sister. Qi Wunshen, princess. Song Shi interrupted him. Okay, your majesty, I have nothing to do today. Your majesty is still young, so just play with him for a while. Qi Wunshen didn't even refute, he just agreed. I have never seen him so good-tempered. He is in a really good mood today. Thinking back to the time when I worked with Qi Wunshen, it was the first time that his ambition was exposed in front of me. It was also the first time that I knew that he was very deep-rooted and his personality was not as easy to get along with as it seemed on the surface. In Nanyang, it's all pretend. Neither the drawings of farm machines nor textile machines satisfied his appetite. What did he say then? Oh, he said, Chen, are you interested in doing something big with me? What's the big deal? He smiled wildly. Annex Nanyang. Miss Chen. Qi Wanshan interrupted his thoughts and came back to his senses. What was Miss Chen thinking just now? I couldn't answer and stammered, no, I didn't think about anything. Song Shi had already taken the little emperor to play far away. The two of them worked together to pick many willow branches. It was spring, and the leaves on the branches had grown out, and they were full of vitality. Miss Chen, do you want to play too? Qi Wan looked at me with a deep smile. I shook my head. No, I just thought of how wonderful it was when I was with my family before. Qi Wanshan followed my gaze and said, it's indeed beautiful. Maybe it was because I, an outsider, was out of place here, so Qi Wanshan called for someone to send me back and said, if this happens in the future, Miss Chen should not rush into the palace again. I calmed down and answered okay. What he meant was that in the future, the little emperor would be accompanied by the eldest princess and there would be no need for me. What he means is that no one can bring me into the palace without his order. After all, I am no longer the Chen Yuji who can talk to him, but an unknown Chen Anping who came out of nowhere. I knocked on the system. Can you remove my surname Chen? My surname is An. Drop. The host is already bound to the main target and cannot change the name at will. Close hollow corner bracket. Forget it, that's fine. When I come back one day, I will definitely put Qi Wan out of reach. It's just that we may have to resolve the current matter first. Jiang Yuchen was boiling medicine in the yard when he seemed to hear something moving and asked, Yuns. I said, Master Imperial Master, it's me. Jiang Yuchen nodded and said nothing. He has been expressionless, and I can't guess what he is thinking. I don't know if he blames me for being in such a hurry to go out this morning. The Imperial Master's mansion actually looks very grand from the outside, but who would have expected it to be so cozy inside? Jiang Yuchen planted many kinds of herbs in the mansion, including flower gardens and vegetable gardens. These lands accounted for 2/3 of the land of the Imperial Master's mansion. Jiang Yuchen likes to be alone. Sometimes he makes tea by himself, boils medicine by himself. He doesn't know what he is thinking. But he still goes out more often. Yun said that Jiang Yuchen goes to the Gashi temple every day to pray for blessings. I asked for whom to pray. Yun said, everyone has it, including you. This is what Bayan's national master has to do, pray for the country and everyone, observe the stars and predict fortune for Bayan, tell fortunes for destined people, etc. It's just that some traitors didn't realize that the Imperial Master had such abilities, so in an assassination attempt, Jiang Yuchen was poisoned to a degree that would never be seen again. Yun said that if Jiang Yuchen could see it, the first emperor of Bayan could live for at least one more year. I was dumbfounded. I didn't expect that the national master of a country could have such abilities. But now he can only rely on his hands to touch divination, cannot look at the stars, and can only pray for blessings. But this still does not reduce everyone's love for the national master. I asked, was the poison put on the sword? Yun shook his head, it's blood. The master was poisoned by the medicine man's blood. Isn't it good for the five of us to be together? Chapter 95 Prayers. Jiang Yuchen, why is the girl so quiet today? I came back to my senses and said, it feels very comfortable to sit like this. I saw that the medicine was almost cooked, so I rushed to pour it out. Master Imperial Master, let me test the medicine first. Jiang Yuchen, this is not a test, this is your antidote. I was stunned for a moment, and then I drank it in one gulp. Jiang Yuchen took out a jar and opened it to reveal a pile of candied fruits. I was surprised, are these for me to eat? Jiang Yuchen pushed the jar closer to me, his meaning was obvious. I smiled and took one, thank you, Master. In fact, I have been waiting for Jiang Yuchen to ask me about entering the palace this morning, but he didn't say a word. Also, what kind of person Jiang Yuchen is, he basically doesn't care about such trivial matters. I've been playing with civet flowers in my house these days. I haven't seen it before, maybe it's because I'm too busy. Suwa still likes to rub against people. She rubbed against Jiang Yuchen before, and now she rubs against me. I have never seen such a clingy cat. It likes you very much. Jiang Yuchen came back from outside and saw Li Hua lying obediently in my arms. I was so embarrassed, this girl is loved by everyone. Flowers bloom when flowers bloom. Cats love cats when they see her. Yuns behind him said unconvinced, give Suwa less food, look at how fat he has become. Meow tilde, Li Hua protested. I asked, did the master of the Imperial Academy come back from the Imperial Academy temple? Jiang Yuchen, yes. I handed him the medicine I had prepared. This is the medicine I made. How about giving it a try, sir? Jiang Yuchen was stunned. You know how to prepare medicine? I shook my head. I read it in the book and matched it like this. When Yuns heard this, he immediately poured the medicine. I was surprised. What are you doing? My movement to get up was too violent, and so I jumped out of my arms. It was frightened. Yunze, how dare you give your master some random medicine? Why is this girl so brave? I immediately changed my mind. No, it's not random, it's based on medical skills. Jiang Yuchen stopped Yuns from talking and asked me, why does the girl prepare her own medicine? I said, I just want to prepare an antidote for the Imperial Preceptor. The Imperial Preceptor has been drinking the medicine, but his eyes have not improved at all, so I thought I would do my best. Yuns, girl, your little strength can really kill someone. Jiang Yuchen, Yuns. Yuns, master, please don't stop me. I have been following my master for many years, so I can recognize a few medicines. That bowl of medicine is full of highly poisonous substances. Even if you don't die after drinking it, it will take half of your life. Jiang Yuchen didn't say anything, but just turned over the pot of medicine residue again. Although he couldn't see it, he could smell it. You are a poor person anyway, so why not give it a try? Yun's, Master. Jiang Yuchen, although these drugs are highly poisonous, it is not impossible to use poison to make poison. Yun's, but hasn't Master tried using poison to make poison before? It's useless. Jiang Yuchen, young lady, I think you have another medicine. I nodded wildly, and then thinking that he can see, I quickly responded, yes, there is another pot frying in the kitchen. How did the Imperial Master know? Smell it. Seeing that Jiang Yuchen really wanted to drink, Yun's was angry and anxious, so he could only look at me. If Master makes any mistake, I will definitely take it upon you. I smiled openly. I came across this medicine in the pharmacology book provided by the system in the past few days. There is absolutely nothing wrong with it, and the effect will definitely be excellent, but the treatment course is long and the ingredients are complicated. After he drank it, I immediately asked someone to bring the medicine from the kitchen. I drank 2 pairs of medicines, but Jiang Yuchen's expression remained unchanged. Yunze was worried, so I comforted him. Master Imperial Master is a blessed person and will definitely be healthy. What's more, my antidote is still in Master Imperial Master's hands, and it will not hurt anyone else. Yun's, how can your life be compared with the Master's life? What's more, your poison is not. Yun's. Jiang Yuchen scolded Yun's and he immediately stopped talking. A girl's life is also her life, nothing more. I paid little attention to Yun's. After all, he was also eager to protect the Lord. I only asked, how do you feel, Master National Preceptor? Jiang Yuchen, there is nothing abnormal, just a little hot. I smiled and said, it's just hot. Your Majesty the Imperial Master will definitely have a fever tonight. When you wake up tomorrow, you can see how effective the medicine is. Jiang Yuchen understood, okay. Yun's glared at me and helped Jiang Yuchen back to the room. I also wanted to say that I would take care of him tonight and increase my favorability points by the way, but I think Yun's would definitely disagree with someone who is alone. At night, Jiang Yuchen really had a fever, and the entire Imperial Preceptor's mansion was brightly lit, but it still couldn't stop me from falling asleep, except Chen Anping. Yun's knocked on the door angrily outside. I looked at the time and was about to sleep for an hour. I asked impatiently, why are you so alarmed? If you don't stay with Jiang Yuchen, what are you doing here to make trouble? Why is the Master's fever so severe? Did you take some strong medicine? The Master is unconscious now and keeps talking in his sleep. I opened the door and went straight to Jiang Yuchen's room. It's normal to have a fever, and it's normal to talk in your sleep. You're a big man, don't make a fuss, okay? Even though I said that, I couldn't control my hands shaking. When I arrived at the door, I was shocked. All the servants in the mansion were kneeling here, muttering something unknown. What's this? Yunze, Bayun's prayer ceremony is the greatest courtesy to the people you respect and love. Girl, don't wait any longer and go in. I calmed down and walked over. When we entered the room, there were servants wiping Jiang Yuchen's sweat. When they saw me coming, they all gave way. Jiang Yuchen's face was covered with sweat, and he slept uneasily, as if he had a nightmare. His eyes were not covered with gauze, and his long eyelashes kept trembling. These symptoms were all what the book said would happen. I breathed a sigh of relief, at least things were not out of control. Yun's didn't dare to speak as soon as he came in. He just took care of Jiang Yuchen with me. When he saw that my face looked normal, he felt relieved. After taking care of him all night, Jiang Yuchen finally stopped having a fever before dawn. I couldn't hold it any longer, so I told Yun's and prepared to catch up on my sleep. Unexpectedly, the servants in the mansion were still kneeling outside, kneeling piously. Only then did I see clearly that they were not kowtowing, but praying. The bells on their wrists jingled, and every time they rang, it was a prayer. Some people look very tired, but they're still persevering. If you ask them is it worth it? They will only say that people like the National Master are indeed worthy. For the 5 of us to be together. Chapter 96 I want the prince's whole person. It was night when I woke up again, and I didn't know what was going on with Jiang Yuchen. I opened the door to take a look, but I was startled by the scene outside. A bunch of guards came from nowhere and stood in a row at the door of the room, preventing me from going out. I said, I am a guest of the Imperial Prefect's mansion. Whose order do you obey and dare to stop me? A guard came forward and said, my subordinates are under the regent, so they naturally obey the regent's orders. Qi Wanshan, why did he come to the Imperial Prefecture? And it still feels like the visitor is unkind. I asked, but something happened to the Imperial Master. I thought that this was the only thing that could cause such a big disturbance. The guard looked at me suspiciously and said nothing. The night was dark and windy, so I returned to my warm bed and waited for Qi Wanshan to summon me, but I fell asleep again and still didn't wait. I was dragged up by the maids early the next morning. When I asked them what to do, they didn't respond. They only said that the regent in the front room asked me to come over quickly. When I heard that it was Qi Wanshan who was meeting me, I didn't dare to delay and quickly passed by. I thought I would see Jiang Yuchen in the front hall, but found that Qi Wanshan was the only one there. I bowed and said, greetings, Prince Regent. Qi Wanshan, no need to be polite, girl, please sit down. I glanced at him. I had never seen such a pleasant person before. The stool under my butt felt a little hot. So I took the lead and asked, Your Majesty, I would like to ask how the Imperial Master is doing now. Qi Wan smiled deeply. Master Imperial Master is naturally safe and sound, but isn't Miss Chen worried about her current situation? I gathered my thoughts and said, if it's a good thing, there's no need to worry. If it's a bad thing, there's no need to worry. What's supposed to come will always come. Qi Wanshan, Miss Chen is quite open-minded. I have no desire to chat with him and reminisce about old times. Since Jiang Yuchen is fine and Qi Wanshan looks like he is negotiating, the only thing I can use for him at the moment is this inexplicable medical skill. It's just that I can't let him know that I actually don't understand anything and only rely on a book. Chi Wanshan, Miss Chen is a sensible person, and she must also know the purpose of Gugu's coming here. I interrupted him and said, don't you just like Cao Min's antidote? Please give me a price. Chi Wan smiled deeply and shook her head. It's not this medicine. I frowned. What is that? Chi Wanshan pointed at me. It's the whole girl. I was silent. Chi Wanshan, what a coincidence, the last person I worked with was also Miss Chen. Looking at his smiling face, I secretly wondered what his expression would be like when he knew they were all the same person. I said, benefits. Chi Wanshan, aren't you interested in the glory and wealth in the rest of your life? I laughed. What does glory and wealth mean? I stood up and slowly approached Chi Wanshan, and lifted his chin with my fingertips. Chi Wanshan didn't hide, so I became even more bold. Those are not as interesting as the prince. Chi Wanshan, the girl is getting more and more courageous. I laughed. Didn't the prince just say that he wants my whole person? Then the condition I want is that the prince's whole person is required. Chi Wanshan raised her eyebrows but said nothing. I was about to continue flirting, but I saw that he kept looking at the door with an unpredictable expression, which made me a little scared. I looked back and saw Jiang Yuchen. Very good, Jiang Yuchen is still not wearing gauze. I don't know how long he looked at him, but I could just see a feeling of gnashing of teeth from his expressionless face. Jiang Yuchen left. Chi Wanshan, girl, you still won't let go. Only then did I realize that my fingers were still on his face, and I immediately pulled away after reacting. I have to say, this guy's skin is pretty good. I said, Your Majesty, please think about it again and the common people should retire. I left in a hurry, regardless of Chi Wanshan's expression behind me. I saw Yun's guarding the door of Jiang Yuchen's room. When he saw it was me, he said, I don't know what happened. The master was fine when he went out just now. Now no one is allowed in. It's really worrying. I moved the door and found that it was locked from the inside. How is the recovery of the National Preceptor's eyes? Yun smiled and said, I really underestimated the girl. I have already taken the medicine prepared by the girl for the second time, and the effect is amazing. Seeing that I couldn't get through the door, I looked for a window in the room and said, it's fine, it's just some bad timing. What bad timing? Yun saw me trying to climb through the window and asked in surprise, what are you doing, girl? With my strong skills, I jumped in at once, fearing that Yuns would listen to window corner, and close the window thoughtfully again. Just when he was satisfied with the result, he turned around and saw Jiang Yuchen. Although he was frightened, Jiang Yuchen's eyes were undoubtedly beautiful. He didn't look carefully at the front hall just now. His pupils were light aqua blue, and they probably haven't fully recovered yet. They seemed to be covered with a layer of light. The fine grey, coupled with his almost sickly white skin, makes the whole person quiet and noble. Before I could say anything, Jiang Yuchen said, what are you doing here, girl? I don't welcome you here. Clearly, angry. Jiang Yuchen's anger made me even more excited than Chi Wan's warm smile. I smiled and said, how can you not welcome me, Master National Preceptor? It really makes me sad. Jiang Yuchen, you and Chi Wanshan, what is the regent's plan? I said, they both have their own needs. I have the value that the regent needs, so he naturally wants to come to me for cooperation. Jiang Yuchen, what about you? What do you want to ask for from him? I said, what do you think, Master National Preceptor? Jiang Yuchen pursed his lips and said nothing. What if I say that what I want is exactly what the Imperial Preceptor saw? Jiang Yuchen, the regent is not someone you can mess with. Jiang Yuchen showed a worried expression for the first time, and again. I said, if I don't agree to the regent, he will eventually force me to obey him. If I am threatened, can the Imperial Preceptor protect me? If I protect you once, what about the second and third time? The Imperial Master cannot protect me for the rest of my life. Jiang Yuchen, yes. I looked at Jiang Yuchen. His eyes didn't look fake, but I didn't want to continue this topic. Master Imperial Master, you don't have to worry about this anymore. When Jiang Yuchen saw this, he lowered his eyes and said, girl, you'd better go out. I said, Your Majesty, the Imperial Master is really cold. I helped him detoxify me from this poison, but the Imperial Master didn't even say a word of thanks. Seeing that he didn't say anything, I added, did the Imperial Master recognize me at first sight? Am I beautiful? The Holy Father always said that I am not good looking before. Said. What? Jiang Yuchen smiled at me. The girl is very pretty, much prettier than I imagined. What was I thinking at that time? Oh, I was thinking, this guy in front of me is really good looking. That day I stuck my butt out and climbed out of the window because Jiang Yuchen wouldn't let me go through the front door. Yuns was very surprised when he saw me coming out of the window again. Why did the girl turn inside out again? I said, nonsense, is it possible to dig a tunnel? Isn't it good for the five of us to be together? Chapter 97. Thinking about it every day and dreaming about it at night. Chi Wanshan didn't give me an accurate answer, so I wasn't sure whether he would still look for me. It's been so quiet these past few days that I even wondered if Chi Wan was deeply frightened by her actions that day. Jiang Yuchen was as usual, praying, boiling medicine, taking medicine. He was so calm that it felt as if nothing happened that day. However, his eyes are getting clearer and clearer. In the past few days, he could only see clearly intermittently, and it was still a bit blurry. Now the course of treatment is almost over, and he will no longer need to drink medicine in a few days. Yuns has not let go of my name in the past few days. Why didn't the girl say earlier that she was a miracle doctor? When I first saw the girl's face, she looked like a rich and powerful person. The younger one was so blinded that he didn't recognize the girl's craftsmanship. And so on. I couldn't guard against this. But after Jiang Yuchen's eyes were cured, there was an unexpected surprise. I don't know when the news leaked out, but it was spread in the city that the master's eyes had been cured and he was no different from others. This was a surprise to everyone. The poisoning of the Imperial Master has been a threshold in everyone's mind for many years. Now that he was cured quietly, it naturally aroused everyone's curiosity. The entrance to the Imperial Preceptor's mansion has been packed with people these past few days. I thought that this matter would only cause these waves, but I didn't expect that someone was spreading the news that the master's eyes were actually cured by a commoner woman, and now there was even more uproar. The unexpected surprise is that the system informed me that my popularity has increased again, but no one knows my name now, so the improvement is relatively slow. I have to say that Yuns is quite reliable in this regard. He is guarding the National Preceptor's mansion and no one dares to break in, so for now I feel at ease. The servants in the mansion also regarded me as a distinguished guest and did not dare to be negligent in the slightest, which made me feel a little uncomfortable. Just take it easy, that's how they always do. It was really busy outside today, so Jiang Yuchen could only stay at home and slowly make tea. Jiang Yuchen, wearing a gauze, has a aesthetic beauty, can this be said? Jiang Yuchen, who had taken off his gauze, became more friendly. His eyes were slightly smiling. Compared with the alienation before, he seemed to be more humane now. I thought about what Yuns told me before, that the popularity of the Imperial Master in Bayan was unimaginable. If he didn't avoid people when he went out, he would probably have his head full of flowers. I asked, which one is more popular, the Prince Regent or the Imperial Master? Yuns, then this is incomparable. I looked confused. Yuns, the Regent is the one who can capture the hearts of girls the most, and our Master is loved by men, women, old and young. How can this compare? I nodded in agreement. He came back to his senses and peeked at Jiang Yuchen next to him. Every move he made revealed a fairy-like temperament. Jiang Yuchen turned to look at me. Girl, do you usually stare at people like this? That is indeed. I shook my head violently. It's really because your eyes are so beautiful. For Jiang Yuchen, he has been unable to see for many years and everything in front of him is very strange. However, except that he stares at one place for longer every day, nothing else has changed. It's just a pity that I can't peek at him openly in the future. The medicine has been cooked. I gave it to Jiang Yuchen. After he drank it, he said, suddenly I remembered something I wanted to ask the girl before. I said, what's the matter? Just ask, sir. Jiang Yuchen, this kind of antidote is very complicated. Normally I can see that the girl is not good at pharmacology. Naturally, she cannot easily know the antidote formula overnight. It was perfectly normal for him to think so. Jiang Yuchen must have been trying to understand this poison for many years. From the fact that the huge Imperial Master's office has all the medicinal materials I want, it can be seen that he must have tried many methods. Even he couldn't find the antidote formula, so how can an ordinary girl like me know it? Qi Wanshan didn't suspect anything at the time. I'm afraid it was because he and I had little acquaintance, and people always have a certain subconscious mind. Since the National Preceptor is well versed in pharmacology, he would naturally feel that the people under him are also somewhat knowledgeable. Although this matter is a bit ridiculous, I already have a countermeasure. Me, what if I say that I learned about these prescriptions in my dream? Would you believe it, sir? I thought Jiang Yuchen would be more or less suspicious, but I didn't expect him to accept it very quickly. Even I can observe the stars and predict the fate of the country. What else do you think I don't believe in, girl? This seems to be the case. Jiang Yuchen handed me the tea he had made and said, more than this, I want to know why the girl dreamed about the antidote. Suddenly I felt that the tea in my hand was a little hot, so I avoided his gaze. These words made it clear that I think about something every day and dream about something at night. I often think about something during the day, so I dream about such things. I'm just worried and distressed, sir. I almost want to slap my brain. What is this saying? If these words offend the Imperial Master, I ask the Imperial Master to punish you. Jiang Yuchen looked at me quietly, and then I realized that after he regained his sight, besides being in a daze, he also liked to stare at me. Even though I was very thick-skinned, I couldn't stand the gaze of such a handsome guy, and I blushed in no time. Jiang Yuchen, the girl has cured Jiang's poison, so she can be regarded as Jiang's benefactor. Everyone in the Imperial Prefect's office has treated her as a guest, so she doesn't have to be like this. Seeing that he changed his title, I understood that he meant thanks and respect for me. Before I could say anything, Jiang Yuchen added, it's just that the girl needs to avoid the limelight these days. He smiled sheepishly. Everyone takes Jiang's big and small matters very seriously. Jiang certainly doesn't want to push the girl to the forefront, but it is inevitable that some people will publicize it and disturb the girl. Peace of mind. I nodded. I know this. I can still hear the noise outside. I'm afraid everyone already knows that I'm at the Imperial Preceptor's mansion. If I go out for a walk, not to mention interrogation, just one inspection would be enough for me to eat. Seeing my worried look, Jiang Yuchen said, it's not that there are no other better ways. Jiang has a way to get the best of both worlds, which can block everyone's silence and appear legitimately in front of everyone. My eyes lit up. What can you do, Master National Preceptor? If I had a way, I wouldn't have said it earlier. I really don't want to live such a timid life. Jiang Yuchen smiled slightly. Marry Jiang. I was stunned, and it took me a long time to realize what Jiang Yuchen was talking about. My face is even hotter than before. No, has Jiang Yuchen released some kind of seal? Why is he so talkative lately? Isn't it good for the five of us to be together? Chapter 98. It is his strength to force two people away. This. I was a little incoherent. Master Imperial Master, I really am not worthy of you. I thought that someone as cold as Jiang Yuchen would be difficult to defeat, but I didn't expect him to be so hot inside. But the system doesn't have any notification sound indicating that the strategy is successful, so there must be something else that I've overlooked. Is it just because I don't deserve it? I looked up at Jiang Yuchen. I couldn't guess what he was thinking before with my eyes covered, but now that these eyes are right in front of me, I still can't guess. Yes. That shows that there is no place for Jiang at all in the girl's heart. Hey, how can you still justify yourself? The Imperial Preceptor is gentle, elegant, humble, a gentleman, and has a dignified appearance. I will definitely be happy. It's just that it's not the right time yet. When is the right time? I smiled. No comment. Taoist priest Tilda. Jiang Yuchen wanted to say something else, but was interrupted by Yun's, who came in. Yun's was in a hurry. Seeing such a situation, he didn't know whether he should speak or not. Jiang Yuchen motioned for him to speak, and Yun's dared to speak. Master, the people outside have almost dispersed. Jiang Yuchen nodded and got up to go to the Gashi temple. He also told me not to go out as much as possible. I agreed wholeheartedly and said with a smile, remember to close the door after your master goes out. Jiang Yuchen staggered, and he must have remembered this sentence. There was no one in the small courtyard, so I went back to my room and continued reading my thick pharmacology book. Now that you know the name of pharmacology, you have to start learning. You can't take out this big book in public when the time comes to show your true skills, and then say, don't be impatient, let me look for it. How to treat it. I'm afraid it's a small matter if the patient is sick, but it's a big deal if I get mad at him. I think that usually no one would come to me, and the people who come to me are not ordinary people. For example, Song Nanshao suddenly appeared in my room. I was right, he was the little emperor. I was shocked. Your Majesty, why are you here? Shouldn't you be sleeping in your own dormitory at this time? The little emperor sat on my bed and casually pointed to the open window of my room. I climbed in through that. Me. I remembered that I also imitated him when I opened the window of Jiang Yuchen's room. Why is your Majesty coming to my humble residence so late? The little emperor looked at me sadly and said nothing. Why are these people all born from the same mother? Everybody likes silence. I kept smiling and said, Your Majesty, do you want to hear a bedtime story? If you want to hear a story, your Majesty only needs to call someone to shout, and there's no need to make this extra trip. Although I didn't say it directly, anyone with eyes could definitely tell that this little guy sneaked out of the palace. Little Emperor, it's been more than half a month since you went to the palace to tell me stories. More than half a month. As if he was afraid that I would not realize the seriousness of the matter, he pointed 3 fingers in front of my eyes. The little Emperor, there has been no news about the telescopic sword that I was promised for more than half a month. More than half a month. I didn't know what to say. I had already done half of it to deceive him, so I could send it to him tomorrow, but in fact I didn't do it at all. It has indeed been more than half a month since I last entered the palace. I avoided the important matter and said lightly, the reason why I don't go to the palace to tell stories is because the regent doesn't allow a commoner like me to enter the palace all day long. I must have annoyed the prince last time, and I don't know if he has calmed down. Besides, I have no reputation and no status. If you let other people know about I entering the palace, what shall you think? This is a violation of the palace rules and you will be punished. After hearing what I said, the little emperor angrily smashed the pillow on my bed to the ground. My brows jumped wildly. That was the beauty soft pillow that Yun's found specially to thank me. You just threw it away. Well, you are the boss and you have the final say. Little emperor, it's the regent again. Why is he everywhere? He was the one who drove away my sister, and he was the one who drove away the eldest sister. I hate him. I quickly covered his mouth. Your Majesty, be careful what you say. The little emperor pulled away my hand covering his mouth. Don't you think it's funny to ask the king of a country to be careful about what he says? I asked. The eldest princess was driven away by the regent. Why? The little emperor, to be precise, I didn't drive you away, I was angry. I can only tell you this. The rest are secrets in the palace. I will tell you when you make the telescopic sword one day. Hi. Little emperor, I heard, big sister, that you cured the imperial preceptor's eye disease. I nodded and said yes. The little emperor smiled. That would be better. Hi. Little emperor, didn't eldest sister just say that you can't enter the palace without any name or status? Then you can grant a title and live in my harem. This is justifiable. I want to see who else dares to stop you from entering the palace. Quote. I almost fainted, but I didn't because there were more explosive things to come. The door opened with a clang. Your Majesty, I'm afraid I will have to discuss it with you about the appointment of a concubine. Qi Wanshan stood by the door with a slight curl of the corners of his mouth and a slight smile. It was very seductive. Oh no, very scary. Qi Wanshan is actually here. When did he come? How much did he hear? I was flustered and at a loss. The little emperor also didn't expect that Qi Wanshan would suddenly appear. Little emperor, isn't it not good for you to appear in the eldest sister's boudoir like this? Qi Wan smiled deeply and said, Your Majesty broke the precept first. I was just concerned about your Majesty's safety and showed up here in time. The little emperor blushed and said, I don't want you to go back. Qi Wanshan picked up the pillow on the ground, dusted it, and handed it to me. I was flattered and accepted it, but I just wanted to minimize my presence and not accidentally hurt an innocent person like me because of the little emperor's actions. Qi Wanshan, your Majesty really won't come back. The little emperor, what are you going to do when you go back? I'm going to memorize those books from Lao Shizi again, but you forced my sister to leave, and my eldest sister can't enter the palace anymore. Qi Wan sighed deeply. Miss Chen can enter the palace tomorrow. The little emperor's eyes were red. Hearing this sentence, he asked, really? Qi Wanshan nodded. A gentleman's words. It's hard to chase a horse. I looked at him and was very pleased. The little emperor is really easy to be bribed. He only needs to meet a small request and he will be very happy. No, why am I the reward? The one with a puzzled face here is me, and the one over there is the little emperor happily returning to the palace, and Qi Wanshan, who has put the little emperor in a good mood. Your Majesty, please don't talk about taking Miss Chen into the harem again. Quote. When Chi-won saw that the young emperor had agreed, he handed him over to the palace guards and escorted him back to the palace. Just when I saw off the two giant Buddhas and was about to breathe a sigh of relief, Chi-won turned around and closed the door. He didn't go out. Me, if the prince wants to try to climb through the window is over here. Isn't it good for the five of us to be together? Chapter 99. I'll wait. Chi-won had a slight smile on her lips, but I felt a little oppressed. I just heard him say, last time, the girl was so bold. Why are you so timid today? Seeing that he still remembered what happened that day, I felt a little funny. What about the prince? Has the prince decided to cooperate? Chi-won walked towards me slowly. I came here just to talk to the girl about this. I stopped him. Let me put it this way, Your Majesty. It is not appropriate for a man and a woman to be alone in a room. Chi-won stopped and looked at me with interest. That's it. I wonder what the girl's words that day mean. Meaning. I tried hard to think about it, and then I remembered my bold statement. It was a bit embarrassing, but I would not give in. What the grassroots said in the hall that day is true. I've told enough lies, not least this one. I love the prince, and all I want is the prince. Chi-won's face became obviously worried. I always felt that Miss Chen was different from the women outside, but now it seems that she is just as superficial. I said calmly, if you don't be superficial, how would the prince know the grass people's heart? Chi-won sneered deeply. Is it out of love or a way to cling to the powerful? Whatever the prince thinks is what it is. Chi-won seemed heartless, but in fact he was very defensive. If I couldn't express my thoughts about him, I'm afraid he would never know. But what I'm worried about is that someone has already taken over his heart. Sure enough, it was just as I thought. He said, girl, I can't agree to this request. I already have someone I like. I raised my eyebrows. Is this the reason why the prince has not married? Chi-won, she has her own ambitions and ideas. Naturally, she cannot be confined to one world. I smiled and said, the common people can't agree to the prince. Chi-won, it's not up to the girl. The girl should also know that you will definitely get what you want. The prince hasn't won the one he likes yet, so there's no need to say so. Chi-won. But there is no need for the prince to be anxious. In order to express Cao Min's sincerity, Cao Min is willing to offer the prince 3 things that the prince wants, including waiting for the prince to change his mind at any time. Chi-won, there are more than 3 things that I want. I just accidentally heard that the girl is going to make the Nanyang special retractable sword for the Holy Lord. This makes me even more surprised. I frowned, and sure enough he heard it. Chi-won, the girl is so talented, she must be used by Bayan. I just want to remind the girl, don't let the villain blind you. I said, the common people have always done things safely. Better so. When he was about to turn around and leave, he said again, girl, don't wait any longer. You probably won't be able to wait until then. The door was opened and closed again the next moment. Everything fell silent, as if nothing happened. Only the pillow in my hand could confirm what had just happened. I murmured, I'll wait. I dusted off the pillow and quickly lay on the bed and slept. The next day I got up and drew the drawing of the telescopic sword for the little emperor. With the memory in my mind, I could only slowly recall what I had drawn and made some modifications. I have to say that Yu Wanyi is a very smart craftsman, and I don't know if he saw the things I left for him. Yu Wanyi came to me to ask for some fun gadgets before, but I didn't find a suitable opportunity to give them to him at the time. I just gave them to him as some parting gifts before I left. After finishing the drawing, I asked Yuns if I could go out now. Yuns was even more nervous than me. Girl, why are you going out at this time? I said, I want to make something. It's near the Imperial Prefect's mansion, not far away. Yuns stopped me and refused to allow me to go out. I felt a little strange when I saw this. There were no people outside yesterday. Why hasn't the situation improved today? Are these people so idle? Did you know that you were squatting at the door of the house? Yuns, Miss Chen, why don't you let me go and invite the people in for you? The girl can't go out, and she also has the intention of being a master. Jiang Yuchen. Seeing that there was no one around, I lowered my voice and asked, do you know why the Imperial Master doesn't allow me to go out? Yuns shook his head. We can't guess what the master is thinking. Thinking that I just had a heart-to-heart relationship with him yesterday, I have to give him a cold shoulder today. Firstly, I am not ready to respond to him yet. Secondly, men generally don't cherish things that are easy to get. I said, then please help Yuns, the guard, to help me call the craftsman next to the south alley. Girl, you're welcome. Not long after, someone called me, but it might not be reliable. When the old craftsman saw me, his face was full of wonder. The most amazing things in my life are that I entered the Imperial Preceptor's residence and met the girl who was rumored to have cured the Imperial Preceptor's eye disease. I am truly lucky. I didn't want to talk nonsense, so I just showed the drawing in front of him and asked, can the master make this? When the old craftsman saw the drawings, his eyes lit up. Isn't this the Nanyang special shrink blade? Shrink the blade. Is this thing actually called this? The old craftsman held the blueprint as if he had seen a treasure. Girl, do you want to sell this blueprint? Before I could speak, Yun spoke first. All property belonging to the Imperial Master's mansion belongs to the Imperial Court. The old craftsman agreed. Yes, I am confused. I asked, can Master make this? The old craftsman said that the wooden one can be made today. When I got the items in the evening, I was very satisfied. You can go to the palace tonight to do business. Yuns told me that Jiang Yuchen knew that I was going to the palace tonight. I asked, Master, what do you want to explain? Yuns glanced at me suspiciously. Isn't it the girl who wants to explain something? Hi. Yuns, the girl is a girl in a boudoir. She has been criticized for entering the palace many times in the past few days. During this period, the girl is staying in the palace with peace of mind. But why does she want to enter the palace again today? If the girl has no connection with the Holy One, the younger one is those who don't believe it. Only then did I realize that in Jiang Yuchen's eyes, I shouldn't interact with people in the palace. There must be something he didn't know that made me get to know the little emperor. Last time I saw my bold behavior in the front hall, and last time I saw my bold speech in the main hall of the palace, no wonder there was no sound in the system. I am afraid that in Jiang Yuchen's eyes, I am probably a bohemian girl. Yun saw that I was trying to laugh or cry, so he thought I had been stimulated in some way. I said, I'd better trouble you, guard Yun's, to tell the Imperial Master that everything you see is just a trumped-up deal. Isn't it good for the five of us to be together? Chapter 100 Rare Fun. There was no one on the way into the palace, probably because the palace guards opened the way for me. No one dared to look at me and no one dared to stop me. This time the sedan chair was arranged by Qi Wenshan, and he also arranged the person who came to pick me up. If he hadn't told me not to wait any longer last night, I would have felt more or less ambiguous between the two of us. Qi Wenshan was at the door of the little emperor's bedroom, and I asked in surprise, why is the prince still here? Qi Wenshan, I'm just checking in with the girl, and I'm going to approve the rest of the memorial. He looked serious, which made me look a little embarrassed. But I would rate him second in terms of cheekiness, and I guess no one here would dare to take him first. I approached him and smiled at him, ignoring the presence of the chamberlain beside me, and said, then can I also think that the prince is waiting for me here specifically? Unexpectedly, Qi Wenshan was not affected at all. He just pinched my neck with his backhand and said, this girl's neck is very beautiful. Don't let this mouth damage it. Maybe it was the after effect of being strangled to death last time, but when I touched his cold fingers, I shivered involuntarily. Qi Wenshan sneered, you only have so much courage. How long are you going to stay outside my door? The little emperor stuck out his head and said with a faint expression. Qi Wenshan let me go, bowed to the little emperor, and left. I rubbed my neck, turned around and coaxed the little emperor to go in. If I can't coax the big one, can't I coax the little one? Little emperor, does the eldest sister really like the regent so much? I nodded and said yes. When the little emperor saw this, he was very happy, then you have to work harder. I looked at his face, a little confused. Last time, you were still saying that I can think about Qi Wenshan. Why did you suddenly start to encourage me this time? The little emperor just stretched out his hand. Where are my things? I placed the shrinking blade in front of him, and the little emperor's eyes suddenly lit up. Sister, have you really made it? I said, I drew the drawings, and I asked an old craftsman to make the shrinking blade. The little emperor took the retractable blade and played with it for a while. It was able to stretch and retract freely, and even danced beside me twice. The little emperor, the things hidden in Nanyang are indeed interesting. I wonder what kind of strange person Chen Cixi is and what other novel things he can do. I silently cursed in my heart. I might never do it again. I'm afraid it would disturb the balance and I would have to do it all over again. I said, then Cixi Chen has only one breath left, and there is no way to save him. The little emperor played with the shrinking blade and used it freely. For a moment, I actually saw the shadow of Ling Hongyuan in him. Little emperor, that's not certain. I know that Nanyang is reluctant to let her die. Although Emperor Nanyang is a bit stupid, Chen Cixi must have some skills that make him happy. I smiled inwardly, letting Ling Hongyuan know that you said this to him, and the little kid couldn't bear his 3 cuts. The little emperor, but Chen Cixi is only alive, so I'm afraid someone is uneasy. After all, my regent, killing people is his rare pleasure. In the past few days, I suspected that Yun's was too worried. Unexpectedly, Jiang Yuchen and Yun's had been out for a while today, and someone broke in. I was taking care of the flowers and plants and everyone looked at each other. I didn't know how to react. This was the first time I saw this person who broke into the Imperial Prefect's mansion without permission. From inside, you can also see the huge crowd of people outside, squeezing the people in front and asking them to take a look. There really is a girl in the Imperial Prefect's mansion. She also wears a silver bell. A group of people were chattering. Although they opened the door of the Imperial Master's mansion without authorization, everyone just stared at the door. Some quality but not much. When the servants in the mansion saw this situation, they quickly found someone to block the door and sent someone to quickly inform Jiang Yuchen. I stood there, being pointed at by everyone, and looked at the silver bell in my hand, not knowing what it meant. I just accepted their scrutiny because it was not the outcome I wanted. Congratulations to the host for your increased popularity. Please keep up the good work, host. Close hollow corner bracket. What does that sentence mean? Black and red are also red, and the person at the center of public opinion will naturally become famous at an unimaginable speed. I continued to water the flowers and plants. Some people said that I didn't look good and shouldn't stay in the Imperial Preceptor's mansion. Some people said how could I, a heroine of unknown origin, live with the Imperial Preceptor. Jiang Yuchen and Yun's came back very quickly. When they saw the Imperial Master himself, everyone couldn't help but fell silent. Jiang Yuchen had no expression, but I felt his unhappiness, because the hand tightly clutching his sleeve betrayed him. Jiang Yuchen asked me, is something wrong? I shook my head to show that I was fine. Yun's led his men and dismissed everyone, but there was still a bold man who ran forward and said, Master Imperial Master, I'm afraid I won't be able to keep this woman. Yun's was about to drive the man away, but I stopped him and asked more, why? The man said, you, the girl, were brought back to Nanyang by the Imperial Master. Your origin is unknown, and you must have evil intentions. Has the Imperial Master forgotten that those who fell in love with the Imperial Master in the past ended up? Jiang Yuchen ignored him, and Yun's invited the man out. The man was still wailing outside. Silver bell, why is it silver bell? I turned around and asked Jiang Yuchen, Master Imperial Master, this silver bell is different from the copper bells of the servants in the mansion, but what is its special meaning? Jiang Yuchen looked at the copper bell on my wrist with an unclear expression. The copper bells of the servants in the mansion mean that they will be protected by the Imperial Prefect's office for life, and it also means that they will devote themselves to the Imperial Prefect's office for life. And the silver bell, when the time comes, I'll talk to the girl again, and there will definitely be no harm to her. Seeing this, I didn't feel comfortable asking any more, so I smiled and said yes. In fact, I am more confused than this. The door of the Imperial Preceptor's mansion was well closed. Why was it suddenly opened today? Is it because the door lock just happens to be old, or is it done by someone with good intentions? The next day Yuns changed the door lock to a door bigger than my head. A bit exaggerated, but it has to be guarded against. Regarding that incident, I even more suspected that it was done by someone with ulterior motives, and the person with ulterior motives that I suspected called me into the palace again today. I brought the drawings with me sensibly. I had known that this day would come, so I might as well take them and submit them. I thought I was entering the palace normally this time, but I didn't expect that the sedan chair turned around and walked in another direction. I screamed secretly, is Qi Wanshan going to do this to deceive others? Soon we arrived at the regent's palace. The palace is not as gorgeous as I imagined. It is actually very simple and unpretentious. It is hard to tell that Qi Wanshan is a low-key person. I remember when I went to Nanyang for the first time, the sedan carriage alone was very eye-catching. Isn't it good for the five of us to be together? Chapter